All right, and I think it's working. All right, so I am here with the newly awakened, and if you could please describe your channel to the viewers that aren't there yet, I assume, because I can't open the freaking channel or the chat for it yet. But do go ahead.
Yeah, my channel, I've been on YouTube since I think 2009, so I'm kind of an old timer. I'm sure I'm like probably way older than anyone that's going to be watching. But my channel is like a Seinfeld episode. It's like a channel about nothing. Like anyone that goes to I have like freaking video content that's all over the place. I do have a lot of like vegan content, but my channel isn't a vegan channel or anything like that. I've just got like commentary, videos of like DIY projects, my barn. I used to raise rabbits, just all kinds of shit. I've got videos that have like 30 to 50,000 views, 10,000 views, and 8 views. It just depends on whatever I feel like posting. I've never like posted for viral videos, but I've had a couple that have done really well, especially like in the Forerunner community. I'm like the only person to have a four-wheel drive sensor fix video for the Toyota Forerunner. And I'm a woman, so like a lot of dudes from like Toyota Forerunner forums have checked out my videos and made them like really successful. And I've helped a lot of people fix their four-wheel drives. And those are probably like my most famous videos. But yeah, it's like I'll go years without posting and then I'll post videos 3 times a day. That's just kind of how my channel is.
And here I am being foolish, making commentary videos 2 days a week. I gotta get. I gotta get me some four-wheel drive skills.
Yeah, oh, I've done very well. I think I've made a whopping $300 off my AdSense account. So yeah, I'm rolling in the dough.
Oh, YouTube famous.
That's
Bringing,
right. That's right.
Raking in that YouTube money, you know.
Oh yeah, big time. Like, but actually, I've never done any promotion whatsoever of my YouTube channel, so it just kind of sits in the frickin' like dark side until some of my videos have caught traction. I'm not gonna lie, but um, yeah, that's it. I don't really promote it because, and it's just my own little baby. Like, I don't have, my family members don't know about it. So I kind of have a little more freedom to talk about whatever I want to at times. So that's part of why I don't
Fair
really
enough.
promote it. Yeah, I just put whatever I feel like, basically.
Yeah, my parents know about my channel. I still say whatever the hell I want. And to be fair, my parents both come from the right wing of the political spectrum. So while some of my social politics they tend to disagree with, but for the most part they agree with me fiscally and in most cases
Yeah.
constitutionally as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I live in a blue state, so like everyone I work with is like Obama supporters, and both my parents are pretty liberal, even like progressive liberal. So I've never like, even as a kid, I rebelled against I grew up listening to NPR, and even as a kid, I was like, this is fucking bullshit. This is not. And then like the first time I heard Rush as a teenager, I was like, oh, I have seen the light. What? There's other people out there that like know bullshit when they fucking hear it.
But there's people dissenting opinions out there. Holy shit!
Yeah, and it's like I've kind of always, maybe it's just because I don't, we're not around a lot of conservatives here, but definitely here being a conservative like in Washington state is very much counterculture. Like
Washington State.
yeah, I live kind of between Olympia and Seattle, which are both like one's the urinal of the state and the other's the armpit of the state. And it's pretty like, oh, slim pickings to come across another conservative out here. But we do have a strong military community, which kind of balances out a little bit. So
Well,
that's how
we
we've
call it
tolerated.
we call this the left coast. By the way,
Oh, big time, big time.
considering your proximity to California, I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah, I mean, we parts of the community out here does wish it would just fucking break off and fall into the ocean for sure.
Oh, trust me, we feel the same way about New York City and New York State. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing we've got really going for us to like put us out of our misery is that China and Russia would blast us first because we're closest and we have so much military here. That we would just go up in a blaze of glory. It'd be over quick. So,
Please just make it end. Make sure
yeah,
it's a
they're all.
direct hit, though. I don't want to walk away from this.
Yeah, I mean, we might be slightly outside of we'd be in the zone where like the radiation would melt the flesh off our bones. So it probably would be terrible. I take it back.
Yeah, you might want to rethink that. So, so speaking of that, the irony in that is I grew up quite the opposite. I was actually very liberal when I was in my younger years, especially my early teens. That changed very quickly after I got my first paycheck when I was 16.
And you were like, "What the shit?"
Yeah, I started realizing, well, my parents were never very pushy about politics. They were like, we disagree with you, and this is why, but we're not going to say that you have to be the way that we are.
Yeah,
And
they were wise. They knew that once you became a worker and like had to earn your money, you would figure it out for yourself if you had 2 cents to rub together.
oh yeah, and I mean, I've not to toot my own horn, but I have a relatively high IQ, so it didn't take me a whole lot to figure it all out.
Yeah, me
But
too. Yeah,
it was for me.
my dad was a member of the Mensa Society, and I have a child with autism, so we have fairly high intellect in this family. But
Oh, that's always fun.
high intellect still can equate with liberalism, unfortunately.
I mean, just because you have high IQ doesn't mean that you're not suicidal.
Yeah, you can be intelligent but not smart, if that makes sense.
Well, it boils down to what some would consider common sense. Not saying that the liberals are inherently wrong; they make good cases. But me personally, I think that they have a rainbows and unicorns outlook to life. Like, yes, it sucks that there are homeless. Yes, it sucks that there are poor, but there is no way to guarantee that everybody has the same income. It's just
Yeah,
impossible. And even those that tout communism, for example, and we'll segue off of this into freedom of speech soon, but the issue with that mentality with communism is yes, everybody is equal. Yes, equally as shitty off. Like everybody has an equally shitty
exactly.
lifestyle, and they also have the situation where yes, the proletariat, the working class might all be equal, but the class that becomes essentially what the 1% was is just the government. So either you have the quote unquote fat cat capitalist society or you have the fat cat communist society.
Yeah, that they're the
They're near
elites.
indistinguishable. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's near indistinguishable at that point. The
yeah.
only difference is that communism looks prettier on paper.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And they like they have the benefit of protection of being elite and they can skim and they can be corrupt and but let the little guy try to do anything like that and no. I mean even in North Korea you can see Kim Jong Un and Kim Jong Il they totally partake of all the pleasures of Western culture, but dare let one of their poor, downtrodden citizens even say anything remotely positive about the West, and they disappear.
Yeah,
You know?
it's one of those things where people that like you and myself we advocate for free speech and some people don't understand why, like the NBC article where they're talking about you know free speech advocates and they immediately conflate it to Nazis. It's like, yeah, it's okay to say that it's okay to say that these Nazis aren't allowed to have free speech, but here's the thing: A, what do you define as a Nazi, and B, where do you draw the line? Because freedom of speech isn't there the First Amendment isn't there to defend people that have a popular opinion. It's there to defend people that have an unpopular opinion.
Right, right. And it's like science. Science isn't there to prove a theory. Science is there in and of itself to just puzzle out where the evidence leads. The same with facts, but liberals are pretty good with um I don't know. It's like how they kind of the illusion and the smoke and mirrors, like you said with the rainbow and unicorns. Well, everybody likes rainbows and unicorns, but those things aren't real and they're not practical. And I think that's the difference. Conservatives love rainbows and unicorns, and we're ideas people as well, but we're also practical and we want things to work. We don't want to just talk about solutions. We want real things that you can grasp and that actually benefit society. And freedom of speech is a double-edged sword, but it's weird how the left claims to be for freedom of speech, but they're not. And I think the benefit of the freedom of speech is that even if it's misinformation, it makes you think, and it gives the average person at least the opportunity to see two sides to something, whereas the people that are against freedom of speech, they only want you to know their version of reality. And yeah, that's where I think we're in like a fascist rising right now. We're seeing the beginnings of it that happened almost 100 years ago. It's kind of happening again. And I don't know why more people don't realize that.
Well, they have the rose-colored glasses on, so to speak. They think that they're fighting against a group of Nazis when in reality, Nazis don't really exist. The Nazi Party has been dead for ages. How the people that these advocates are trying to point to are actually neo-Nazis by definition.
Right.
But
But who's the real Nazi when you think about it today? The real neo-Nazi. I say it's the one with the rose-colored glass and the fucking brown shirt and jackbooted thugs. And those aren't anyone on the right. I mean, am I wrong or not, you know?
Well, you can make a case for neo Nazis on the very far right, but at the end of the day, are they any different than the far left? The only difference is that the far left is fighting under the banner of communism, and the far
And
right is fighting under the banner of white nationalism.
and
It's
I
one and
would
the same.
say I would say that another difference between somebody that might be a neo-Nazi on the right, the big difference is they're extremely small number that is not influential at all, whereas the liberal, they control
I
everything
agree to
today.
that. I can agree to that
And
entirely.
and they've done so well at controlling the narrative, they've actually equated fascism with conservatism, and they are a polar opposite. But yet, the average person equates those two, Nazism with conservatism and right wing, and they don't even know how polar opposite they are.
Well, the reality is that when people talk about Nazism and fascism, they don't understand that Benito Mussolini himself, one of the first advocates for fascism, was actually a staunch socialist. So were his parents. The reality is the only difference between communism and Nazism and fascism in general is in communism the military works under the guise of the government. In fascism, the military just works as the military does. Because while Hitler didn't outright take private institutions away from people. Like he didn't go out there and take private property away from people. What he did was he told the private property owners, if you don't
In
do
the
what the party
beginning,
says, we will
in the
kill you.
beginning, in the beginning, he didn't, but he did absolutely take private property. But in the beginning, he didn't.
Towards the end, he did, yeah. But that was a last ditch effort to attempt to save his own ass because he knew how much hot water he was in. But it's the reality of the situation. I mean, fascism and communism, it's a horseshoe theory. Yeah, you might have a different, prettier name for it, and it might work under a little bit prettier of a guise, but at the end of the day, are they really different? No,
No,
they
and
both
it's
go against free
weird.
speech.
Isn't it weird that we live like under the best form of democracy? It's not the most perfect, but it's the best that we've been able as a human species to create, which is a representative republic. And yet, even that's been corrupted, but it still is the best. Yet, they want us to somehow be under like globalist, socialist, communal, which has been proven time and again to be an utter failed ideology. It doesn't work. It never has. It never will. And why don't we just embrace what we have and improve upon it instead of trying to evolve it into something that's already been proven to not work and lead to terrors?
Well, it's essentially comes down to two things: grass is greener on the other side, and the definition of insanity. You try it over and over and over again with expecting a different result, and people want to try this situation over again and expect a different result, and the result's going to be the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it really is just that they know that that is the easiest way to have the utmost power, and I think that that's where we want to control what we think, what we say, how we work, where we work, what we drive, when we drive. I mean, right on down the line, who we fuck, what technology we have access to, and the only way to get that is through communism and socialism.
Oh, well, definitely. But the thing is the people in power want that, but the people that are advocating for it don't see that the people in power want that. The useful idiots don't realize the bet that they are making for themselves.
Exactly.
That
It's so frustrating.
if communist boots march down the main street of Washington D.C. tomorrow, these useful idiots advocated to be the first ones tossed in the burner, so to speak.
We can only hope.
Well, to be fair, considering they don't have anything to provide to society outside of drinking Starbucks and typing on a computer.
Hey! I like Starbucks in my computer. Damn it!
All stereotypes aside, you do not have a hipster beard. All right.
Yeah, not yet. But with the way the liberal healthcare plan is, who knows? They might start advocating I take hormones and become a man. So that could happen in the next decade. Who knows?
That never happens to me. Not like I go to the doctor as it is, but if that starts happening, they can suck 3/5 of my right testicle. Talos in the chat says he hates Starbucks. I can agree with you on that.
Well, Washington is kind of like, we're known for having a latte stand every 10 feet. So you can't help but I am the product of the society that I grew up in to a degree.
I didn't choose it, damn it. It chose me.
Well, and I was a barista before I went to college, so I have a love of coffee. I have a love of all things coffee.
I like my coffee. I like my coffee like I like my women. Bitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a good one. Warm, white, and sweet.
Warm, white, and sweet. Well, you know, I can't really argue.
Cream and sugar. Instead of strong and black.
I just put a little bit of cream in my coffee. Every coffee I have every morning. I'll be right back in 5 seconds. I gotta turn something off real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I can't see the chat though, guys. I hope it's lively and hilarious. Those are the best chats. But I wonder how many of you want to know how old Aggy is. That's one thing. I don't know if you've ever publicly divulged your age or not.
As for the people in the chat right now, I'm pretty sure G Money in the Bank knows how old I am. As for Talis, to answer that question, I am 26.
Wow. I remember 26.
I don't remember 26.
Yeah, I'm two 21-year-olds put together.
You're still younger than my mother. By a lot.
Good time.
I like my coffee like I like my women, without another man's dick in it. I can agree to that entirely.
Without? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
I can't even imagine. I'm all for freedom of sex, exploring your sexual desires and everything. But like, I've had women ask me like, what do you think about three-ways? I was like, if I wanted to disappoint two people at the same time, I just talk to my parents.
Yeah, I know, that's hilarious. Like how touted the whole male, female thing is. I've often wondered, like, most men can barely satisfy, if they even can, a single woman. Like, that would be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it would be. That's the main point. And heart problems run in my family. Damn it, I don't need more stress in my life.
That's right.
Well, on my father's side, they do.
When you're an elderly person, you may look back and go have some fond memories. That's why I say don't knock it till you try it. Not that I've ever tried it, but I try to be lighthearted about those things. To each his own, right?
Yeah, well, the reality of the situation is when it comes to like, and I guess we could segue here to another topic that's a little touchy in a not good way. But I'll start it off with when it comes to sex with two consenting or more than two consenting adults do behind closed doors is their business. To each their own, different strokes for different folks. My issue is when people like Amos E come out about the pedophilia thing, and I'm just like, no, fucking no, you do not do that.
Yeah, I think I agree, and I think even most sexually liberated people agree. Like there are certain lines in the sand that should never be crossed, or equated with other, consenting adult activities. But somehow it seems like people are trying to blur the lines a bit these days, sadly.
Unfortunately, yeah, I mean it's one of those things. I know people that would consider they don't consider them. Some of them don't consider themselves part of the LGBT community, but the LGBT community will consider them part of it. And it's I keep telling them is like if pedophilia gets added to that, you can take all the notoriety, the forward movement that you guys have made over the past 30 some odd years, we'll say for the sake of argument, and you can just throw that in trash because
Yep.
while the liberal elitists and the people in Hollywood and all those other things and they might advocate for it, and some members of the more radical side of the Islamic faith might advocate for it. You will have a very large portion of the society that will still, if rightfully, deem it with disdain and disgust because that's exactly what it deserves. It's like you have a person that's fully mentally developed taking advantage of an individual that in some cases doesn't even understand what they're doing yet.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like I can equate it somewhat to like veganism in terms of, who can be a voice for the innocent? Only adults, only human beings. Like children are innocent. They don't have that conceptualized ability to, I mean, they obviously know it's wrong when it's happening, when bad things are happening to them, but they don't have like a voice to, know to pick up the phone and call 911 or neither do animals for that matter. They're not consenting in what happens to them. It's like a power struggle, and so yeah, it's up to people that are um, always on the right side of justice, like to be able to speak out freely against infractions and atrocities to the people that don't have voices, or even for the innocent of like things that happen to animals in the planet. I'm fairly, I'm not like an environmentalist, but I do think that people should not be afraid to speak out against um, or speak up and speak for the things in society that are voiceless. And I'm also surprised at how people like Corey Feldman, for instance, the Hollywood industry, and what was the actors that was in Little House on the Prairie? Even going back to that generation, like, everyone knew of that stuff going on in Hollywood, and nobody spoke out. Weird. And yeah, why would the LGBT community even, or T, excuse me, even want to be associated with like NAMBLA and childhood sexuality? That's just terrible. People should be outraged and not afraid at all to call it for what it is.
Well, it's gotten to the point where they're being you were roboting pretty bad. It seems to have cleared up a little bit on my end. I'm not too sure. I'm watching the chat and see what they say. Um, the reality of the situation is that don't get me wrong. I understand that the certain advancement of rights for individuals that are homosexual or bisexual or whatever, they are important because evangelicals pushing against them back in the 70s and 80s and 60s and whatnot. But the reality of the situation is that most people, your day-to-day person, you meet them on the street nowadays, will be like, yeah, I don't give a shit if gays get married. I don't give a damn. Like me, I'm one of those people. You want to get married? Go ahead and get married. I don't give a shit. The only thing you're doing is giving way more of your money to taxes than the rest of us are. But also with that, they need to understand that they've progressed. All right, you have your rights. Now what? Well, now they're progressing. The pedophilia thing. It's like you guys are going off of a ledge, and you better be careful where the hell you go, because it's gonna.
Definitely.
It's
Well,
it's
and
it's
it's just
it's gonna.
it's just going to validate for like the most religious conservative people that they're going to be like, aha, we knew you were a bunch of perverted degenerates all along.
Exactly. It's like, oh, well, you assume that because they're homosexual. Well, now they get to say, well, no, we assume that because they advocate for people having sex with children. And there's going to be a large portion of the population who'll be like, yeah, they're advocating for sex with children. I disagree with this strongly,
Yeah, well,
mind you.
I think like where it goes in terms of logic is that, well, there are people that are, I guess different, or you could say abnormal. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term, but, in terms of like the general population, there's a small segment that is homosexual. And yes, there's also people that are, attracted to children. But that you don't equate the two as both being perfectly fine. I mean, there's people that are sexually attracted to raping and killing people. They're sadists and sociopaths. We accept that that's normal for that person, but it doesn't mean as society we have to allow them to do it. That's just their, So it's weird how that it's like, yeah, they want to equate. Well, it's perfectly normal if somebody wants to be homosexual, but that's two consenting adults. That's the difference. Yeah,
And the key word in that statement is adult, of course.
Yes, exactly. I'm willing to accept that there are people born being attracted to children and they happen to be, pedophiles. But I don't have to accept that we have to allow them to do it with no judgment and no punishment.
Exactly. The law is quite clear. You do this, it's a crime. You go to prison because of it because it's a crime. It's like you were talking about before, the people like are psychopaths and everything. It was like there are people that their fetish is the literal illegal act of rape, which, by the way, mind you, is one of the few offenses that doesn't have a statute of limitations on it. I.e., you're able to get put in prison for it regardless of how long the crime has passed. So, yes, well, we understand though there are people that have that mental disorder. Doesn't mean that we should advocate for it as a society. This isn't the
Exactly.
Middle East.
Jeffrey Dahmer was born the way he was. 4% of the population are sociopaths. Um, you know, but we can accept that there are sociopaths, but we don't have to accept their sociopathic behavior. And most sociopaths don't actually ever commit any crimes, especially to that degree. We can accept that somebody may be a pedophile, but we don't have to accept their pedophilic acts.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things is with it is I'm not one for advocating for the lack of freedom of thought. If an individual has those urges but doesn't act on them, all right, fair enough. I still think you're a fucking weirdo. I'm going to avoid you and keep my children away from you, or any children I'm around away from you as much as possible. But I in no way think that you should be thrown in prison just because you think something. It's when you act on it that the line is drawn, or show signs of acting upon it that the line is drawn.
Yeah, but you also shouldn't be judged when somebody comes out like as a NAMBLA spokesperson when you go, you're a fucking degenerate pervert and you need to be outed as such. People shouldn't make you, oh, well, he's just promoting it. He hasn't actually done anything. He's just conceptualizing that people have these urges and that it shouldn't be demonized. I say bullshit on that.
Demonized. We demonize shit all the time. We look at the way the right wing is demonized nowadays. It's no longer
exactly
left. It's no longer left, center, and right. It's now left, center, and Nazi. Excuse me. Now it's left or Nazi.
Yeah, ask any conservative how many times they've been called a moron or Hitler or a racist, or I mean they've been called every name in the book, yet life goes on. People have opinions, but you have to be intellectual enough to call, a spade a spade. And yeah, the pedophilia aspect is definitely one of those that should be called what it is.
Exactly. And even if you simply disagree with the individual, all right, you call them out on that. In no way, shape, or form is that taking away their freedom of speech. All you're doing is criticizing their speech, which is freedom of speech is a double-edged sword. You can say what you want, but you also have to deal with A, people criticizing what you say, and B, the actions of what you saying if you do it in a public space, having effects on your personal life. Like, let's say you are, for example, a neo-Nazi, and have an actual neo-Nazi. I'm not talking about the fake fucking Nazis these other idiots are talking about. I'm an actual neo-Nazi, like Gas the Jew kind of person. If you are free to say those things, however, you are not going to have a job and you are going to be outcast from society because we are civilized. We're not primates.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think the simplest way is actions speak louder than words. People can toss around ideas and concepts and say things even tongue in cheek or facetious or whatever all they want. But when you look at a person's life and their works, that's where, you know, those of us that form an opinion on that, we shouldn't be demonized for calling out certain actions.
Exactly. I mean, you shouldn't really demonize anybody for what they say. I mean, it depends, obviously. Well, I mean, not even really depends. It just, in
Well,
my
that's what
personal,
debate is.
yeah, in my personal opinion, it comes down to my personal beliefs is what should be demonized and what should be, not demonized. But that's, you said, personal beliefs and political beliefs. When it comes, especially when it comes to politics, though, a lot of people say stuff that some would consider, what's the word I'm looking for, offensive.
Inflammatory. Yeah.
or inflammatory, one or the other. And one of my favorite well, not even really quotes, but one of my favorite sayings is, "Offense is always taken; it's never given." The individual that's taking offense is taking what you were saying and being offended by it. Like, there's a comedian that I know that did like a perfect skit on this, and he's like, "Oh, I went to this comedian, and he talked ill about the Lord, and I was offended." So what? Nothing happens. It's not like you wake up in the morning and it's like, "Oh, I was offended the night before, and now I have leprosy." No, you wake up in the morning like normal. Nothing happens to you. You're offended. I don't care.
Yeah, well, if you're not being offended, you're not a human.
Well, exactly. I mean, the offense is one of those things. Yeah, you might be offended, but offense is subjective.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Like, yeah, you might be offended if somebody misgenders you. Okay, but somebody might be offended at you for wanting to to call you a different gender than you obviously aren't. Like, if you are obviously male and you expect to be called she, somebody might get offended by that. Be like, "No, dude, you have a dick. I can tell. I can see the lump."
I can see the stubble and Adam's apple and the broad shoulders. Hello.
I'm I'm fairly certain you are not only taller but stronger than me. I am not going to call you she. All right, so offense is subjective. You can be offended over the hell you want. Doesn't mean that I should give a shit.
Well, I know, but isn't like being offended like the new hip thing these days? That's probably the takeaway from like the last 8 years is this rising being offended movement. Like that's where every movement that is out there now, it's because they're offended about something. It's like grow a fucking pair and accept that that is life. That is everyone's lot in life, is to be pissed off about something, but you don't have to form a goddamn movement over it.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from exactly. And some movements have some legitimate complaints, but they're not coming about it from the right angle. Like, we'll say for the sake
but
of
but
argument,
our I don't care if there's a movement as long as it's productive, but just to be bitching and offended for the sake of it is where I'm just tired of people complaining and rioting over shit they can't control and shit that's meaningless anyways.
oh, you mean like the people that are the November the 4th rally that was supposed to happen because Trump got elected and nobody realized that, hey, you
I
dislike the guy all you want, have all of your
go
concerns against him that you want, but
Well, go right
don't
down
burn shit.
the line. I mean, yeah, go right down the line. Black Lives Matter, transgendered bathrooms, um, Second Amendment, gun control. I mean, you can just extrapolate any movement pretty much on the left, and it's because they're pissed off at some obscure thing that either doesn't exist in the first place or that can't be controlled. And my thing is, I'm okay if there's a movement as long as it's productive, but just to drum up drama and civil unrest for the sake of it is completely asinine. It's not productive.
Oh, it's a waste of time and waste of breath is really what it is. But alas, they tend to do that over dumb shit anyway. But
well, the only good thing that comes from those is the backlash.
this is true. This is true. I do believe the 2016 election results were a resultant of a lot of things that had been boiling for a long time, and just the backlash against the utter stupidity of the media and just the overreaction to some really stupid shit in a majority of the leftist world.
Yeah, it's fun to watch just the fallout sometimes from these things. And even like, okay, for the Black Lives Matter example, how even the people on the left that in the very beginning days of it said, oh, well, all lives matter, you know, the backlash that happened against them was just so fucking tasty to watch them getting eaten alive and them to, you know, fall on the sword right away and backpedal like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean to take away from, you know, the atrocities and the you know, focus and mission statement of it. It was just like, it was so delicious to watch. And
Oh yeah.
for like the transgender bathroom issue, where you even had some people on the left that were level-headed and saying what everyday average people would think, you know, how cartoon as well. You can just tell that they put their finger in the fucking wind to see where it's going to blow. It's like, do they even have an actual opinion on things? They do in the beginning, but then they very quickly have to step in line.
I can agree with that entirely. It's become tribalism is what it is. But I disagree with tribalism and collectivism as it is as a whole. Especially when it comes to politics. Like I don't agree with I don't agree with defending Trump just because he's a right winger. I don't agree with disagreeing with Obama just because he's a left winger.
The one thing that tribalism has that I think is better than what we currently have is that, and I've often thought about this, like when it comes to the criminal justice system, if you lived in a small band of people in a small community and you had somebody raping or being a pedophile or stealing, the tribe would act quickly and take that person out because a small group of people cannot tolerate having that. Yet in society, we're told to absorb all these rapists and sex offenders. We're told to absorb all these illegal immigrants with their criminal activity. And that's the one area that I think that we should embrace tribalism, is dealing with how we deal with criminals. Because for the survival of a tribe, you cannot have anyone committing those kind of crimes, and they know how to deal with it effectively. As a larger, quote unquote, civilized society, we have completely and utterly failed at how we deal with criminal activity. So that's the one benefit I'd like to point out to people. Like, if you say tribalism is bad, tribalism is good in that area.
Well, I also agree with particularly criminal activities being dealt with more on a local basis and versus a national basis. And I can even account this to like the Trayvon Martin thing. There's no reason for that case to have gone trial or for that case to have gone national like it did. You know, Obama sure's fucking helped situation, but the reality is Zimmerman was actually doing something within the law. Like, despite your disagreements one way or whatever the law is still there, and he was acting within the rights of the law.
Yeah, so, as he thought at the time. And where they really fucked up on that, if they wanted to get him, is they should have got him on manslaughter or possible negligence, but they didn't. And what they chose to charge him with was a failure, because he didn't premeditate. That wasn't proven, you know, in court. That evidence didn't play out. So that's where they fucked up on that one.
Oh, exactly. That's true, but that's the reality of the situation. You have tribal, and in that situation, I don't even call it tribalism. Call it more like statism or personally, in some circumstances, you call it countyism in the United States. But the closer you get to the actual source material that the crime was actually
Yeah,
committed in, the more accurate of a depiction of what happens is going to be portrayed to the
and
individual.
the better off we would be as a society. But what we really have nowadays is federalism, and we're giving too
Well,
much control to
federalism
essentialize.
doesn't work. Federalism doesn't work because it takes away the rights of the state. And the state's rights are supposed to be not necessarily above federal government rights, but the federal government is supposed to have
But they're a
as little
standalone.
involvement.
Yeah, they're a
Yeah.
standalone and their own sovereignty, and we've pretty much gone away from that. The Fed gets involved in so much shit nowadays, and in fact, we turn things over to federal courts and federal opinion because our goddamn, you know, freaking limped dick officials here at the local level don't want to make a decision on anything anymore.
Oh, majority of cases are passed to the Supreme Court if it gets too bad. What do you expect if a decision goes south and it turns out the decision was wrong? In the state sense, they can always pass off the guilt to the federal government. In that case, or the Supreme Court, actually, be in this case.
Yeah, and absolve themselves of any,
Any guilt?
accountability. Exactly.
Well, this boils down to a lot of people not wanting to take agency for their own actions. You could take this to let's say for the sake of argument, we're talking about illegal immigrants before, which I have no problem. I have no issue with immigrants whatsoever. You want to come to this country as long as you have something to add to this country in some way, shape, or form. I don't give a
Yeah,
shit as long as you come here
but
legally.
it's funny because, okay, I'm the child of an immigrant, so is my father, and so is my husband. My husband is the child of an immigrant, yet all of our family came here legally. And even in the Hispanic community, there's a large segment of legal immigrants that oppose illegal immigration. But
Well,
yet the mainstream media never really points that out to anybody.
no, I'd go against their narrative, but if you ask any citizen that came here legally that was of Mexican descent, they will tell you that one of their least favorite things is actually illegal immigration. It's because they jumped through all the bureaucratic red tape and through all the hoops to get here legally, and some jackwagon just hops the fucking border and comes here illegally.
Yeah,
That
and
just
every African American that's unemployed, every impoverished white person from the Appalachia on down to any township, everybody should be opposed. That's the entry level workforce that people say, oh, if we didn't have illegal immigrants, no white person would do those type of jobs. That's complete bullshit right there. I know many that would, and I know many that have. It creates a vacuum. As soon as those people are no longer here, other people will take those jobs.
well, of course. I mean, if you're put in a situation where you have no way of feeding yourself, and somebody offers you, all right, yeah, it may be shitty work, but I'm still gonna fucking pay you. The individual is going to take that opportunity, and if they don't, well, then they're committing suicide. So it's their
Well,
decision.
yeah, as little as 20 and 30 years ago, the people that were picking produce were college kids earning money to go to college. But now we hand out free government student loans. And so you have these kids that are getting government welfare so that we can also subsidize and exploit migrant workers. It's complete, like it would be a win-win for everybody. And
Well,
they've proven that the majority of illegals that come here ship their US dollars that they earn back to their countries of origin. It doesn't even benefit the United States. It just benefits the fat cat, companies and employers that want to exploit them. People should be against exploitation.
well, of course, these are the same people that they want to say, well, I'm against, against the fat cats taking advantage of people. Yeah, but you do realize that one of the greatest, one of the biggest benefactors of people that come here illegally are businesses, are big
Yes.
businesses, because they can get cheap labor. They don't have to pay, and they don't understand. You don't have when you hire somebody, you have to put money forward when you hire that individual. Now, of
Right.
course, this might change by state, but as far as I'm concerned, in my own state, it's about $1,000 to hire somebody.
Yeah,
That's
that
on the
sounds about
books.
right.
That's on the books. So if I can I can either hire Joe Schmo off the street legally for, we'll say for the sake of argument, $9 an hour, or I could hire Jose that'll do the work without any benefits or any health insurance required. I can hire him to do it for $3 an hour. But oh no,
Yeah,
excuse me, that's racism. That's not
no,
seeing the
but
forest through the trees.
it really does make the case for how lobbyism is corrupt and how labor is in bed with the government, especially on the left, for them to be such proponents for, everyone politicizes it, but they don't realize that the politicians are doing what's being asked of them by lobbying groups. And so who's lobbying for this? Well, the person that's running a farm or a person that's running a hotel chain that wants these cheap laborers in there, no questions asked, and look the other way. And it's a benefit to the Democratic Party because then they have a built-in voter base. So, how are we ever going to get away from that when there's just so much entanglement?
Well, there's one simple way of getting rid of it, but a lot of people wouldn't like it. It would
I
end in
know,
a
and
lot of
everyone says the wall won't work. Well, ask Israel how well their wall works. It works damn fucking well, is how it works.
I don't even, the reality of the situation is, I wouldn't even, if the wall didn't get built, I wouldn't care if, and this is a big if, the immigration laws we have in place were actually fucking enforced everywhere. And I
Yeah,
mean
well,
everywhere.
they're trying. It sounds like they're making some headway on that. So we can only hope as time goes on that it'll keep growing exponentially. If we just enforce the laws we currently have pretty much on everything, things would be better.
This is true. But, of course, this is another a funny topic. One of my family members brought up. My sister brought it up. She goes, "You do realize that we probably have a lot less of an immigration problem here if we didn't have the welfare state." And I was thinking about it. I was like, you're probably not wrong. It's like there's no incentive to stay here at this point. There's no government subsidies for your education. There's no government subsidies for the children you have living in your household. What would be the purpose of coming here? Any other than
None.
better healthcare.
None. Exactly, but is that ever going to go away? It's like the only thing that's really the undead is a government program. Are we ever going to get rid of, food stamps and housing allotments and things like that, those type of subsidies, especially when you have states that are willingly thumbing their nose at the law. They're giving federal dollars to people that aren't even citizens.
Exactly, and people don't understand. It's like I personally always make the state is once you give the government the old saying, you give somebody an inch, they'll go a mile. You give the government an inch, they will go a fucking millennia with it because they will not let it go. Once the government, if the government has a hand in your wallet, they will not let it. They will fight to the death, come back as a zombie, and steal it from you anyway.
Exactly. And we are the most generous nation on the planet and most generous hearted people. We want to help people. But I think where I think more in terms of like a conservative mindset and nationalism is how can we be like, why is immigration such a big issue? And that, we have to help all these people that are refugees and these poor downtrodden from these third world nations. We have 200,000 homeless veterans in America that we are completely looking the other way on. They're citizens and they actually, did something for this country and they were promised certain things and we're not even delivering on that. So how can we even begin to, care about, we haven't even dealt with our own issues. We need to start turning more towards fixing our own problems for our own citizens. And then we can start, looking at the possibility of expanding that to other, to letting more immigrants come and helping them. We have too many of our own problems and we can't do it all. We're borrowing money trying to do it all, but we got to tighten the frickin' purse strings a little, and we might as well just serve the people that are here first. And we're not even doing that now.
Exactly.
People should be ashamed. Yeah, they should be ashamed of that.
Somebody in the chat, Talus, he said something. I was gonna say something. It was an iteration of, but he said we need to help ourselves before the rest of the world. What I was gonna say is we need to help ourselves before we help anybody else. The reality of the situation is if the house you're living in is in shambles, you can't expect to fix somebody else's house before you fix your own.
True. It does. You got to start, like, it starts with the individual and goes out from there. And we have so many American citizens as individuals that really are in need of things that aren't getting the money that they could. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong in that, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe it's time we did go back to having more of a kind of xenophobic, nationalist, just, you know, America first policy. It's not that it's a terrible way to be, but it's logical. We have too many issues as our own society. We need to, Europe is an example. Look at what Europe's doing. You know, they've been going down the wrong road we can already see what will be like in 30 or 40 years, thanks to France and the UK. Well, we need to shut this shit down, and we need to focus on, you know, building up the individual, building up the family first, and then becoming a success at that before we start looking to, you know, people say, oh, America polices the rest of the world, you know, and I'm like, yeah, fuck that. We shouldn't be doing that. But we also nanny and babysit and coddle the rest of the world as well. Why don't we start nannying and babysitting and coddling our own citizens first, you know, and helping them out?
Well, at the end of the day, when it comes to foreign policy, I'm almost a staunch isolationist. It's to me is like the less involvement we have with the rest of the world, the better for not only for the United States but the rest of the world. Because if we continue to send aid to countries that, well, for the sake of argument, they can't grow, they don't have the means, or they don't have the ambition to feed themselves. We'll say for the sake of argument the means, because, you know, starvation is one hell of an ambition. We'll
it's
say,
already
but
been
what I say
evident.
is,
The evidence is already there. Like the money that we've shipped, pick any, you know, backwater in Africa that we have flooded with money and goods and military equipment. It's always gone to the few, and they've used it to put their boot on the neck of their own people that we were trying to help in the first place. It doesn't work. That's an example. We should not be, we can send them ideas and we can send them people that might help them make their society better, but we give them money, they exploit it. We give them weapons, they exploit it. We give them medicine, they hold it and they sell it on the black market. It never helps. We send them food, they don't feed their own people. You're right. We should become a frickin' isolated, more mindset, because our help is not helping. It's actually probably making things a lot worse. That's one area where I get tired. Like I mentioned, my dad's a liberal. You know, his big thing is the military. Oh, the industrial military complex, and we spend too much money on our military budget. It's like, okay, fine. Well, if you think that, then why should we be sending all this foreign aid, which has been proven to not actually feed anybody?
Which is paid by the military.
Yeah, we shouldn't be doing it. You know, it's making things worse. It's not making things better. Money is not always the answer. And we, you know, we don't have the money. We're in debt. They keep touting the 20 or $22 trillion in debt. I heard an economist say it's actually probably 10 times that amount in unfunded liabilities. The worldwide debt actually is wide GDP, but we keep shuffling the numbers on paper. And I mean, imagine a global fucking crash. That would be really interesting to see. I mean, that would definitely separate the wheat from the chaff right there.
Well, as I said before, in certain circumstances, I do believe one of the biggest things we need for humanity in general in the Western world, for us to be set straight, is to have a cataclysmic event that puts us in a situation where all of these tiny little grievances that we have get set aside, and it basically puts us in a situation where we, as a society, have no other choice but to push ourselves forward, rather than dealing with this tiny, minute shit like, you know, what the fuck the color of a person's skin is. When it comes down to survival, and that, at the end of the day, people don't fucking care. They're all there about trying to feed themselves.
Exactly. Well, like near the end of World War II, you know, Europe was the most civilized culture on the planet. They were the best read, the highest educated. You know, they had all the great arts. People were eating cat meat and burning their own furniture to stay warm. And I bet if you'd have been in Europe 10 or 20 years before that, no one would have ever thought it could happen. And I think people in America, we live way too soft here, and people don't know about history, and they think, oh, that'll never happen, but it could easily happen. You know, it
They
doesn't
know,
take it
they
doesn't
know.
take much to break down a society before people are burning their own couch just to stay warm enough that night, you know, and they
Well,
haven't seen food in a few weeks.
if you look at history, there's two biggest things that contribute to a downfall of a nation. If you look at Rome, came down to them overextending their reach fiscally, when you have with the bread and it never really led to bread and circuses, which the situation was the Germanic tribes were more or less knocking at the door to get fucking paid, and Rome had, well, essentially they had overextended themselves and had no way of paying them. So what they were
Well,
doing to
look,
distract from the outside forces, they were feeding the citizens breads and
yeah,
circuses to keep them distracted. You can say
and
this.
look at our own country. I mean, the Civil War, not the Civil War, the Revolutionary War was over the Stamp Act. I mean, they wanted to raise the tariff on goods and tea like a penny a shipload. And
It was a
that
three.
like you know, some minute amount. I mean, a penny was a lot back then, but even still,
It was 3%.
people, yeah, people like completely rioted and was like, enough is enough, you know. And
The average.
here, because of credit and yeah, and the manipulation of the markets, people don't even understand like, the concept of real money anymore, and the value just prints money and inflates it. And I mean, that's why a cup of coffee is $6 fucking, you know. And people are going into debt buying their Starbucks every day because they don't have a concept of that. People don't get outraged anymore.
Well, just to start my side of this, the Revolutionary War was started over, more or less, we'll say for the sake of argument, 3% tax. That actually is what it was a 3% tax. But the average tax in the United States now is 33%.
Yeah, and I
Us,
think they've said that like we're right near somewhere around 50% or maybe even a hair over goes to government in one form or another of all of our tax money, that local level and on up. And I mean, how can we have such a bloated government that mismanages our money and
well, the reality of the situation
and
is,
people
and
not be outraged?
we'll start this off. We'll start this off with the very core of what most people develop through life. We'll start with the family structure. Now, large number of people, and quite fairly. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a religious person whatsoever, but quite fairly could say that a lot of the breakdowns we have as a society nowadays comes down to the breakdown of the family structure. You know, the father and the mother of an individual is kind of how Homo sapiens came to be the dominant species that we are nowadays. So, and instead of embracing this father mother structure that we have, no, what we do is we toss it out the fucking window when we try some social experiment that might lead us down what, to atavism. We begin to devolve into a situation where we start growing hair and the IQ drops significantly over a broad range of time, which has been scientifically proven that people have been losing the IQ, especially in America, has been dropping significantly over the past 20 to 30 years. Yeah, I'm not saying this because of the education system, because education is one thing, but you also have to have a nurturing
Yeah,
and
and
steadfast family home to to you have to have the father and the mother there to tell you you need to go to school, you need to learn, you need to read, you need to understand, which is part of the reason why I find it funny people that grow up in a liberal household and end up being liberal. It's like, did you never have a rebellion phase? Like me, I had my rebellion phase. It was young. I learned from it. And I learned how to debate from it too, because my parents, they weren't pushy about religion. They weren't pushy about politics. They had their politics and they had their religions, but they were never like, you had to think this way or else. And they were just like, no, here's where I think you are wrong. You can do this as you see fit from this. Now it's, liberal families teaching their kids to be steadfast liberals from a young fucking age just because they're liberal and they think it's morally standing on a high horse, or we'll say for the sake of argument, fucking Olympus, and therefore can do no wrong.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I mean, there's individual anecdotal, things that would probably counteract some of that. But yeah, the nuclear family definitely. And we don't value like personal enrichment anymore. We just value being entertained and hedonism and, sloth. Like people just aspire to sit around and do nothing anymore. And we have a frickin' social hammock that allows that to happen. Um, yeah, there's probably many factors that have led to that. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think? How do you think that would change? Like, is it through more, you know, marketing of bringing back more traditional family structure and or what?
I would say getting rid of a lot of the social programs that do away with a lot of the single home family issues.
Yeah, and I mean, it is. It does make me kind of sad for society. Like, I don't. Do you know the story of Abraham Lincoln and his upbringing? I don't know if
Um,
you do or not. Like everyone
I
knows,
used to be well versed.
he,
I used to be
he
well
was
versed
born
in
in a
Lincoln,
log
but
cabin. Like it was like a
yeah,
little ten
yeah,
foot
I'm
by
aware of
10 foot
that.
cabin. Yeah, with a dirt floor, and he had virtually, no education. His mother died. His father, was pretty abusive and just used him as an indentured servant, basically. But he did that would, entertain his, love of reading and mathematics, and he had like a Bible that he would write in and taught himself to read and did mathematics. And he slowly rose and became like one of the greatest writers and public speakers and influential presidents, and he didn't really have like a traditional functional family unit, but he did have some good influences and he definitely had a strong work ethic. And I just think that, yeah, a lot of that is lacking these days. People don't really have to apply themselves. He knew he had to apply himself, and he also had that inner drive to want to be smarter and learn things. And it just seems like, I don't know, I don't see that a lot anymore. It's kind of sad people don't have that spark to learn and apply themselves anymore. And then they don't get that support at home either.
Well, yeah, they don't have the father telling them that if you work hard and you strive, you will succeed. Instead, they have a bunch of fathers telling them, well, as their fathers are around for that matter, their fathers are telling them that none of it's going to matter. You're always going to end up miserable, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure in Abe Lincoln's case, his father wasn't necessarily the nicest individuals either, and therefore
No,
probably didn't tell
no,
him any of
he
that.
wasn't. But yeah, it's like even when I've been astounded, like we don't have regular television. We just have Netflix and we watch a lot of YouTube in our household. But Netflix, even though I'm an adult and I enjoy, all the freedom of that and beverages,
You're breaking up
so
pretty bad.
totally glorifies. It
There you
seems
go.
like um there's like such a glorification of hedonism and all alcohol consumption and drugs and that sort of thing, and it just becomes so prevalent nowadays for people to just want to always feel good and not ever apply themselves. Like there's no I don't know,
You're still
striving to be
break.
the best, and like also sociopathic. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know.
I think
I don't know if I'm losing my signal or not here. But yeah, like I don't know if you've noticed that too, like just the glorification so much of drinking and hedonism, also like sociopathic tendencies. People are so like every character on every show, every movie, look at one. That's what everybody does these days. They don't think of the bigger picture and benefiting society.
well, the reality of the situation is fiction is fiction. People should separate their lives from it. The reality is that you have some people that'll separate themselves from society due to either drugs or alcohol, due to the fact that they can't deal with society being a bunch of fucking idiots. Personally,
Yeah. But we used to.
I separated myself from society with drugs and alcohol because I was surrounded by a bunch of fucking idiots. And still am surrounded by a bunch of fucking idiots in most cases.
Yeah, but we used to look to our art to be inspiring, and it just seems like everything is so depressing nowadays. People don't strive to be the best and contribute anymore. They just look to strive, and even it's reflected like in our movies and television, like just to get one over on everybody and to have a good time while you're doing it, you know? And I think that that's some of it too. It's like just how our popular culture has influenced our day-to-day lives, and it's not been for the better of society.
Well, I mean, I have no issue with doing what you want. I'm not one of those people to step on somebody's head to get above where I am. I tend to have my own set of morals that I maintain rather strongly. Like, I don't pretend to be a good person in the least bit. I have my morals and I have my principles and I maintain them rather strongly. Main one being I can't stand a fucking hypocrite. And the second one being, well, there's more than two, but the second one being that I have no issue with sex whatsoever, but I will never have sex with a woman that's in a relationship. Those are two principles that I maintain rather strongly. Another one is I'm not going to ask for money if I don't need it.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't sound like somebody either that you're not a user and you don't want to take things. You're fine with, producing for yourself. I mean, you have a let the kind of attitude, which I do as well. It seems like everybody wants to get something for nothing these days. And the government wants people to feel that way, and our, popular culture influences people that way too. And I just think that, yeah, if it got back more to rugged individualism and people trying to just make their own lives empowered, that would probably benefit society as a whole.
Well, I prefer individualism over collectivism any day. I'm actually an avid reader of Ayn Rand, especially Atlas Shrugged was possibly one of my favorite books. That being second to, I believe, Lord of the Flies. But Lord of the Flies taught me the other end of the individual spectrum, where the Lord of the Flies, the moral behind the story is human nature.
Exactly. Yeah. The horrors.
Yeah. If left to our own devices, we are still, at the end of the day, we are still animals. And then you have Atlas Shrugged, which told you that an individual is an individual. An individual can produce. However, another individual will, given the chance, come around and take that individual's wealth away from them for the sake of either just themselves or a group of people, meanwhile lining their own pockets under the pretenses of the quote-unquote greater good. Which anybody that starts off in our political argument or societal argument with me and says, "Well, for the greater good," I immediately say, "You were wrong." The greater good argument isn't necessarily the best argument to make.
Yeah, the greater good is fine if it's not just a elite group of people dictating to us what the good is.
Well,
it's the greater good is fine. Oh, I was going to say it's fine if they just, the greater good, I think, is fine if you just cut us to our own devices and let us help ourselves. But when we're hamstrung with regulations and laws and all of these things, then they're the ones dictating what we can and can't do.
Well, the reality of the situation is an individual acts upon what they want individually. That is as close as you can get to the source material as you possibly want. If you want to look at it from an even remotely scientific level, I'm not going to claim to be a YouTube scientist at all, but if you want to deal with with problems, we'll say they talk about mental health. You want to deal with mental health, you need to deal with mental health on a personal level, because a person's depression or anxiety or mental health in general is different from person to person. Each individual is unique in their own right. I'm not going to deny that. But the reality is that they don't want to deal with that. They want to take everybody and loop them into a group. And you have people on the alt-right, and then you have people on the left, particularly the regressive left, that do this. And then they say, well, each individual in this particular group is this way because of one simple measurement or one simple Puritan test. It's like, I'm sorry, but Puritans were bad. They were dumb, backwards thinking individuals. So why the hell do we want to go back to that? Why do we want to believe that, we'll say for the sake of argument, the regressive left side of it, they think that all white people are born naturally racist. No. Racism is something that you learn through interactions with individuals on a regular basis. Let's say for the sake of argument, you have a black stepfather who's abusive to you. You might become a little downtrodden towards black people. It's taught.
Well, and there's already been scientific studies that have shown, like on babies, we're all born with this innate sense of being attracted to our phenotype. I mean, and that's even seen with animals. And phenotype is basically what you look like, not what your genetics are. And it has to do with what you grow up seeing. Like, I didn't even know this till recently. I guess giraffes are the same species, but there's actually subspecies where they have slightly different patterns on their fur. And giraffes in the wild will only mate with other giraffes that have that same coat pattern. I mean, who knew until it was studied? And they've done it with babies. Babies that grow up around white parents tend to gravitate and look at other people that are white. And babies that are black, that have black people in the home, tend to look at photographs of people that are black. And that's how they were able to determine that even babies can tell the difference in skin color and be attracted more. So it's basically natural for any animal to like its own. And does that mean it's a bad thing? No, it's probably a survival thing. It has nothing to, it's not that it's bad or good. It's just, it's actual nature. And to act like it's a bad thing when it's just nature.
Well,
it's normal. It's normal for, it's normal is what it is.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between being attracted to somebody that appears to be the same as you versus being, violent towards somebody that's a different color than you based solely upon the color of their skin. Is quite the pale comparison.
Yeah, but that comes with adult and society. Children aren't naturally violent towards anything. That comes with conditioning. So yeah, I agree. And I mean, even dogs and animals that have been abused, there's many instances of, like dog rescues that say, oh, can only go to a home with no children because the dog had bad experience with kids, or this dog does not do well around men because, by a man in the previous home and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just nature. That's just self-protection. People tend to equate things. Don't like white people because they've had terrible experience with white people for feeling that way. No. So then why would it be wrong the other way around? If maybe white people feel, uncomfortable around somebody of another color, maybe they've had a bad experience, but as a whole of society, we feel comfortable around pretty much everybody because our society tends to have people of every representative sex and skin color. We're just talking about isolated incidents.
It's wrong because of power plus oppression equals. I'm sorry, that was so retarded. I couldn't even complete that sentence.
You're mansplaining now. You need to check your maleness and your white privilege.
Did you just assume my gender and my race?
I did. Tuck your penis back in. Okay, your phallus is offending me, and I feel a little afraid right now.
What? Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me hard.
Oh, well, I'd have to see you first, and I'd have to be 20 years younger, and I'd have to be not married. But if that was the case, then yes, I probably would.
Hitler probably had a Jewish bully in school. Oh, that's probably not inaccurate.
He was just poor and wanted their money. It had nothing to do with their Jewishness. It had to do with their wealth.
Yeah, he was poor envy. He had rich envy. Oh, these Jews walking around with all their money. I wish I had some of it.
Exactly. It was classism, not racism.
That's a great way to put it. Well, technically, Jew's not a race, but
he said, my military needs more money. Who has money? Therefore, they are the enemy. It shall be mine. Make it so. And then, you know, the SS officers made it so, and the rest is history.
It's a very dark history, nonetheless. Oh, that's funny shit, though. It comes as a surprise to me that most people nowadays like don't even have a compulsory understanding of it all how Hitler came to power, and then or Mussolini or the Bolsheviks or any name a dictator in the fucking history.
Well, or the people that do really know that are in control don't, so they rewrite it, and that's what's happening. There still are wonderful, like Netflix. I'm surprised actually has tons of documentaries about the rise of Hitler, Nazi Germany, World War II, with tons of footage and commentary. And yeah, I mean, the history's out there. People can still get Mein Kampf and read it. I mean, it's the most incomprehensible ramblings of a nut job of a political manifesto. Read it. It's amazing that he even was able to rise to power. The guy was, I don't even know how he made it, other than the fact that he was a total narcissist and sociopath. It was his, you know, ability to influence others around him so well. Do you agree? Was it not rambling and incomprehensible at times to even try to extrapolate what he was saying on any given page?
To be well, two things actually. I read it A being the first one. I read Mein Kampf and I read the Communist Manifesto. Both of them seem to me to be rantings of a teenager that was just, well, like you said, narcissistic and sociopathic. The ranting specifically in Mein Kampf was like all
It was
of
a
my
little
issues.
word. It was a little wordy.
Well, yeah, to be fair, but you could tell like there's some part, there's I can't remember what part it was, but there's a certain part in like Mein Kampf, if you go to, you can tell that he eventually hired a ghostwriter because he can be asked to finish it himself. Of all the dictators in the world, this guy's like, I'm gonna be too lazy to finish my own fucking diatribe.
Well, he supposedly wrote it while he was in prison, so he probably did have a lot of time, but who knows if that's even true. That could have been a part of the myth of Hitler, of him, you know.
There's no way, man. I read that it changed hands at least once in that fucking book. At least once, because the language and the grammar and the sentence structure, at least the English version, it changed. It definitely fucking changed. But you know, German to English, it's in the eyes of the beholder, I guess, at that point. But the second part of it is like most dictators get power at during a time of political upset. That is when dictators get power. Like in Hitler and Benito's case, it was during a time of. In Hitler's case, it was during a time of
Well,
financial,
the German economy
financial,
was in the tank.
and what he did was he used that as a like a catalyst. He didn't come out the first day and say, you know, we're going to kill the Jews. Basically, he eventually worked up to it. He came out the first day and said, I'm gonna you know fix the economy. I'm gonna make Germany a greater country again. We're gonna be wealthy instead of being poor all the time. You don't need a truckload of fucking Deutschmarks to buy a loaf of bread. Which, by the way, if you really want to point blame for World War II, you could say the French and UK and majority of Europe in general has actually had a massive hand in it because they were the ones that wanted to tax Germany into oblivion. Meanwhile, the United States backed out of it.
Yeah, well, the United States was in its own impoverished state. I mean, that was part of what took us so long. We boatloads of Jews that were telling us what was going on over there, and we didn't believe it, and we didn't want to get involved because we were so dealing with our own problems during the Depression.
The Great Depression, the funniest part about the Great Depression is it was World War II that actually got us out of it, even though FDR is one noted for it.
Yeah, due to the dreaded military-industrial complex. I mean, hello. We benefited not only as being seen as a world savior, but it frickin' saved our economy as well, and like set us off for like several decades of wealth and prominence after, you know.
Exactly. It's funny to me though, because going back to you know the Great Depression and whatnot, you see a lot of the things going on with the Great Depression we had. We had a massive bubble burst not that long ago with the housing market, and you can kind of see it with cryptocurrency and like Bitcoin and whatnot. You know, you see the bubble, You
Oh
know it's
yeah,
going
like
to burst.
has anyone else, I can't see the chat, but I'm curious, has anyone else noticed YouTube, all the ads about all these like overnight millionaires making these YouTube ads about, you know, their system for becoming wealthy in Bitcoin? Like, are they not pushing that on the general populace to get in Bitcoin all of a sudden?
Well, I don't know about the chat. I haven't seen any of it yet. I'll give it. Obviously, there's fucking latency to it, so I'll give them a few minutes for them to catch up. But me personally, yes, I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah, they came out of nowhere, and now that seems like all you hear about. It's weird how all of a sudden the social consciousness is like Bitcoin, 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 cryptocurrency. You know, and people have known about it for years, but it seems like there's a real push to get everybody. And that the whole reason I even interrupted is because you're absolutely right. We're headed for a bubble with it. They want everybody in it. It's going to prop up the people that are currently in it. They're going to get rich off of us and off of it, and the rest of us are going to be left holding the bag.
Well, what's going to happen is going to be a certain group of people that have either insight or just the wherewithal to be like, all right, and it's going to burst relatively soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the stock I have in it. I'm going to drop all that stock as much as possible. Well, not even as much as possible. They're going to drop all their stock overnight, more or less, just to make the money off of it quickly. And what it's going to do is, like you said, it's going to give everybody else the baggage for it because they shorted everyone else.
Yeah. So Newly Awakened's financial advice is keep your money and put it in your mattress.
My personal advice is invest into firearms and brass.
There you go. Buy some freeze dried food and toilet paper and ammo.
Just don't eat the toilet paper.
Stock up for the Armageddon.
Well, they do say Armageddon is inevitable. Talos in the chat says. Talos in the chat says he's seen a ton of them. Viral says same here in the UK, Europe. Those ads and so on are everywhere.
Yeah, are they buying Bitcoin?
As far as I know, those two guys in the chat, no.
Yeah, I'm just curious if it's having any effect. Oh, they're beautiful. Wow. I'm just looking at some of my daughter's artwork right now. Sorry, she's doing some sculpting.
Sculpting, huh? I was more of a pen and paper or pencil and paper kind of guy myself.
Yeah, her latest thing is sculpting. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, fair enough. I have no problem.
But that's what I was.
I have no problem with art unless it's lazy art. If you take a dump on a piece of paper and try to tell me it's art, I'm going to tell you it's a shit taco.
And I'm just mommy's pouring her beverage right now.
Oh, really? Making another one of those adult beverages. So vodka and ice.
Yeah, I'll make it a double. I'll make it a double.
Pay bartender, can I get a double?
Yeah.
On that, still do that.
Well, so talking about the Armageddon and stuff, do you like that topic, like prepping and survivalism and all that sort of thing? I find it very fun and interesting.
I always found that stuff interesting, especially when it comes to like Yellowstone in recent months and years and whatnot with activity increasing.
Yeah, I did a live stream a few days ago, Christmas one, and I talked a little bit about just I don't know, I love it. I love like any apocalyptic, futuristic, like Matrix, Terminator, Walking Dead, like anything that has to do with the breakdown of society. I don't know, I'm just drawn to it. It's such a fun thing to conceptualize and think about.
Well, in regards to Yellowstone, it's something that's been periodically proven to happen. Like it's going. One thing, and this is obviously fucking. When it comes to the Earth, it's hit or miss. It might swell up and swell up and swell up, and then release pressure in other areas. But as of right now, it doesn't look so healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was just saying how, like The Walking Dead, when I was on my live stream, just talking about how, like, my dad thinks it's really silly, like, talking about these and that. That's just a metaphor. That shit could go down.
You're roboting really bad.
everything else in The Walking Dead, other than the zombies, I feel is like completely accurate about what would happen to the city if some global event happened, or an EMP or financial war. Take your pick.
To be fair, in Walking Dead, there were certain glaring. I've never really watched Walking Dead a whole lot, but the few I think I watched the first season and part of the second. From what I saw of it, they did a lot of stupid shit that I know as an individual I would never do in that situation.
Like what? Like what? What examples?
Well, I remember. Obviously, my memory's gonna be a little fuzzy, but it's been a while since I watched the series. But I remember like one of the first episodes was the sheriff decided to go one to Atlanta, Georgia, and I was like, I would never,
Exactly.
ever
Yeah.
I would never go to a majorly population city in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Like he already knew what was happening. Like me, I'd be like, nope, I'm going to avoid any area with a large population entirely.
Yeah, I think didn't he like go there trying to find his family or something, or they had told them he had hooked up with that black guy and his son, and they had told him that there might be like a CDC camp there or something. I can't remember what the character why he went there, but yeah, I totally agree. Like, stay out of the populated areas for God's sakes.
Even in any post-apocalypse situation, nuclear, volcanic, asteroid-related, zombie apocalypse, just avoid any densely populated areas because all those people are going to be desperate, looking for food, money, firearms, weapons, anything that they can get their hands on the side of resources. The people
Yeah,
on the
like
outside,
have you
the
ever
people
seen The
on,
Road?
yes, I have.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty scary. Like even a few years out, like it frickin' shows you what could really happen in a true blackout, like survival nuclear winter. Like people would literally resort to cannibalism and exploitation as their only way to survive.
No, people do just about anything to survive. G Money in the Bank, speaking of the West Coast, says highest probability of apocalypse is North Korean nuclear detonation in space near the West Coast. Highest probability for EMP, not to mention in-air detonation. I'm adding to this, not to mention in-air detonation spreads nuclear material over a large part of the U.S. and northern continent in general. That is actually a very high probability if we can't shoot it down due to anti-air. But since it'd be
Yeah,
in outer space, it'd be very difficult
or
to do.
solar flare. Even like in the late 1800s in Canada, solar flare took them off the grid. And there's quite a bit of there's a guy I've been hearing him on the radio. I wish I could remember his name, just talking about how our infrastructure, our transformers are so old, and it wouldn't take much to take our grid down, whether it would be a natural occurrence or a war, or somebody hacking in or anything. It's really pretty fragile what we're dealing with.
Well, yeah, it's funny to think about it though. But do you know? Are you aware of the game series Fallout?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
It's a third-person shooter RPG that takes place in a post-nuclear Fallout era United States. It takes place in certain parts of the United States, but essentially, like the timeline of Fallout separates from our own timeline back when I think the transistor was developed. So a lot of their technology is, while some of them might be considered more advanced than ours, it's focused on nuclear energy and is very large and cumbersome versus ours, which is, smaller and more efficient. But eventually,
Okay.
it led to a nuclear war. It led to a nuclear war and apocalypse, and it usually takes place 200 years or so after the bombs fall, and everything is just decimated. I find the concept absolutely fascinating, while morbidly curious at the same time. Talis in the chat says that Fallout is my favorite franchise. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it is definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, even I know I'm probably really glitchy right now. My vape juice here. Sorry, bear with me.
A lot of background noise.
Yeah, I'm in the house again. Give me just a second. Sorry. Totally unprofessional right now.
Could be worse. Could be drunk talking to me. Oh. Oh, there she is. Very sad. I thought she dropped out there for a second.
I sound like a robot.
Yeah, you do sound like a robot. All right. I'll give you a few seconds to get what you need to get. I gotta use the bathroom real quick.
It's just hospital, and even in the last few years, doing a part of our employee training, like making sure that we understand that we should have 3 days supply of food and all that kind of stuff, like what the government's telling people. And it's just amazing to me. I've been, whenever we do our yearly education, I ask my coworkers, hey, do you have this? And since I live out in the country and we get, power outages quite a bit, we're on we have to have a generator and stuff or we lose power. And it's like amazing to me how so little they don't even take the basic recommendation of 2 to 3 days. And I mean, I don't really like to talk about or publicize my own preparations that I have, but it's just, I think it's common sense. Like everybody should be thinking about, no matter where you live, it could be a natural occurrence. It could be an outbreak of war. Somebody could let off a dirty bomb, terrorist attack or civil unrest or a hurricane. I mean, take your pick. And yeah, like we live in the richest nation and we have so much storable food and water, and people don't even have a day or two in their house or anywhere. And it's just crazy to me. People should definitely have at least the minimum, and it should be on your mental radar that, it could happen at any time.
The reality of the situation is that most people don't think ahead. Most people live day to day by day, and sometimes even less than that, day by day, less than a day by day basis.
Yeah, they live meal by meal. Like, oh, I go to Starbucks in the morning, Taco Bell at lunch, and McDonald's at dinner. It's like they don't even know how to cook and boil water for themselves anymore.
Well, yeah, it's I talked before about the decrease in IQ. We already discussed a little bit how IQ doesn't necessarily mean intelligence, but you will find that the average person that lives in, we'll say for the sake of argument, very rural parts of Alaska, and I'm talking about towns that may have a population of 18 during the summer months and a population of like 5 during the winter months. These people have survival instincts that would put most other continental people to shame, because we don't deal with those harsh conditions. We don't understand what it's like to have to, a worst case scenario is, yes, you might have to drink your own urine.
Yeah, or chop your own firewood, which, it takes a lot of energy.
I used to do that myself back in the day, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah, I've always liked the subject and found it pretty interesting. And I think that, coming back to the whole individual and like xenophobic nationalism, like, yeah, every American definitely should be able to take care of themselves for at least 3 days, for God's sakes.
Because I had 2+ years of firewood stacked up from my old place with my ex a while back, and that was back when I was, I don't know, my early 20s. So it's been 5, 6, 7 years since then.
Wow, and you did that yourself? You chopped it all up and stacked it and everything?
Oh yeah, cut, split, transported, stacked.
Damn, that's fucking hot.
Oh, I love firewood. If I had the opportunity to be an arborist, I would.
Yeah, like I remember when when we were DMing and you asked if I knew about vegan gains. I had left a comment on his video, one of his latest videos. He was like trying to hang I don't know, a bracket so he could put the big screen TV on their bedroom wall. And I just left this like going, oh, whenever I see a man working or doing something nice, that's just so sexy. And people are like, really? Are you fucking kidding me? He just was drilling some holes in the wall. And I'm like, I'm just comment. I mean, seeing a man get off the couch and do something's fucking sexy as hell. You don't see that shit anymore.
Oh shit! I work
freaking.
I work construction. 98% of my time is spent on the couch.
Yeah, but it's like it's getting less and less these days. So many people don't even know. Like, I'm married to a man that built a huge shop and built my barn, and my dad was in construction. And men that can build shit and work are just fucking hot as hell to me, because I work in a professional sector in the medical field, and my husband and I are both RNs. And so many of our coworkers, like, oh, my hot water heater, call a contractor. And I'm like, call a contract? Like, I couldn't even pronounce it. I'm like, what the fuck? Your husband can't fix it? And I mean, I built my own dog sled. I used to go mushing every year. And because I grew up with a carpenter as a father, I knew how to woodwork. I built my own fucking dog sled. I wasn't going to buy one.
Well, really, the situation is you look at the average testosterone levels amongst males nowadays. It seems to be dropping significantly the further throughout time that you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the term for like the modern man now, the ones that are all effete and that they market like cosmetics towards, not the gay guys, but what's the term I'm looking for?
Metrosexual.
Yes. Yes, little guys that can't even fucking swing a hammer, you know.
Soy boys.
Yeah. Hey, soy does not. That is so wrong. Soy does not. It's a phytoestrogen. Go drink your milk and eat your meat. You're getting so much fucking estrogen.
There's a difference.
It's unbelievable.
There's a difference.
Phytoestrogens is in every plant. They are not estrogen.
There's a difference. There's a difference in the way the male body breaks down soy that's in meat versus the way it breaks down soy that's in vegetables.
I know, but it's only called estrogen-like because of the molecular structure, but it's not actually a hormone. I mean,
no, it's a plant-based hormone, which actually can affect males. It's a scientifically proven fact.
I'm sure it can, but like the point I was bringing up is you don't see all the Asian men that consume tons of tofu and soy products. You don't see them walking around with moobs like you do here in the States. I mean, let's be real.
To be fair, they also have a very balanced diet of other meats as well. The fact of the matter is, it's a balanced diet.
You're getting so much soy secondhand because that's what we feed all the livestock. So.
Oh yeah, if you deal a lot with processed food, you're gonna get a ton of soy anyway, regardless. It's the same. The fact of the matter is, 99% of most fucking, not even I'm throwing that number out there. That's not even true. That is
Quit pulling shit out of your ass.
There's a large the amount of soy that you will find, let's say for the sake of argument, a McDonald's burger is vegetable soy because it's fucking cheaper than actual meat.
Hey, don't badmouth my Nazi beans, damn it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I have no problem with people eating. I have no problem with people eating soy. The fact of the matter is, if you're gonna eat a fucking McDonald's burger and talk to somebody about eating soy, you have no balls. You have no ball room to talk. We'll say it for the sake of argument, because majority of that burger you're eating is whatever that other person is eating.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught the segue. A lot of people don't know that Hitler thought the soybean was like the ultimate food, and they called them Nazi beans, and they actually promoted like people growing crops of soy.
Vegans are Nazis, 100% can't confirm.
Hey, fuck you.
Maybe later. I'm a little busy.
But yeah, so anyways, I was like 12 people were giving me shit, and I'm like, I was just trying to pay him a goddamn compliment. Okay, fine. Sit on your ass and game all day and tell your wife to fuck off then, if that makes you feel better.
I had an ex of mine who was incredibly unstable. But that makes sense, though, because her father was never around. Whenever I would go out and do anything that was any one of my normal hobbies, like cutting firewood or doing odd jobs or whatever, she always accused me of cheating, which, going to find out, she never dated a man once in her life that had a hobby outside of gaming, but she also stabbed me. So.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well, I'm glad you're not with her anymore. That speaks to your intelligence and personal integrity.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know about personal integrity, but intelligence is definitely one of them.
Yeah,
I draw the line of getting stabbed. So well, I was technically slashed, but still, I draw the line of getting knifed.
well, you gotta definitely partner up with somebody that's functional and like, I don't know. My husband and I were coming up on 23 years together, and then our 20th wedding anniversary is this summer. And it's like, I just feel like you got to find somebody that complements you in terms of like your ability to succeed. Like, definitely a relationship should be a team effort, not so many people nowadays. It's like completely dysfunctional, and the people are at odds with each other and competitive and, accusatory, like kind of like what you said was happening. And it's like, that's red flags. You want somebody that's like your fucking wingman. Like, I put my husband through college. I got my degree first, and he hitched his wagon to me. He knew I was going places, and we've just built an incredible life together. And it's like, I wish that for everybody. Like, you got to have a partner that's like there for you and has your back, not stabbing you. That's fucked up, man.
Well, slash technically. Speaking of that, Viral Bunny in the chat says slashed pansy. I got a blade through the arm. Try harder with your next Psycho X. Oh, fuck you, you rabbit.
Hey, at least he had a girlfriend, you virgin.
I haven't been a virgin since my finger slipped with the toilet paper.
No, no, I was just saying to them. I was just kidding, though.
Oh, Viral, he's got kids and a wife in his own life. Don't listen to that fucking weirdo. He has like a big
God.
badass on the outside, but underneath that, he's just a big fluffy rabbit.
Oh, I think I follow him on Twitter. Or does Booberly retweet a lot of his stuff? I think I know who Viral Bunny is.
Yeah, she does. She does.
Okay, okay.
She retweets a lot of my stuff too.
Okay, I didn't mean virgin as an insult. I meant it in the purest, most kind-hearted way.
Oh, poor Viral. He has a rough life. Fucking fucking normie.
Hey now.
You're an all-star. Oh no, let's not get into 90s music. Give me fucking flashbacks.
Oh, come on now. Let's jam out to some freaking Metallica or Def Leppard or Nirvana or something.
Ooh, Metallica and Metallica's more 80s, Def Leppard, late 80s, early 90s. I
No,
listen to,
Metallica got good in the 90s. They were all right.
they were still good in the 90s. I'm just saying they had their first start back in the 80s. They were one of the big four. You had Anthrax, Slayer, Metallica, and Megadeth.
I just saw
Back in the
Megadeth with Scorpions in Tacoma, and God, was it September or October? Yeah, they insulted the entire city of Tacoma, those fuckers.
they kind of do that everywhere they go. What more do
Yeah,
you
they
expect
said,
from a metal band?
well, you couldn't under like everyone. I don't really. I remember the band Megadeth, but I don't remember any of their music, and they sounded like shit. I mean, you could not hear his vocals at all over the music. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, well, thanks for hosting us at the Tacoma Dome, and we've heard that this place is getting torn down, and I'm happy about it because it sounds like shit in here." And I was like, "Dude, the Tacoma Dome rocks. It's you. It's not the dome."
Taking
But the
shots.
only awesome thing is Megadeth had this incredible fucking like dystopian animated vignette on their backdrop behind them. Oh my God, it was killer. It was like this freaking, oh my God, this like, I don't know if anyone else has seen Megadeth recently, but there was like this neo-Nazi guy with these Liberty spikes carrying around a katana, and then the Megadeth guy with the skull. And they were like overthrowing this third world regime. It kind of looked like Castro animation. Oh my God, it was so fucking awesome.
I mean, I've never seen. I haven't seen Megadeth live. I haven't seen Anthrax live, and I
Yeah,
haven't
don't
seen.
bother. My review is negative stars. They didn't sound good at all. They sounded terrible.
I've seen Slayer live though. I have seen Slayer. So the when I saw Slayer Live was during the Unholy Alliance tour. To keep in mind, I'm a massive metalhead. Like I listen to everything metal related from, we'll say, like fucking Metallica all the way up to fucking Cannibal Corpse and beyond. I listen to a little bit of everything. I listen
Wow.
to a little bit of everything in general. Like I listen to a little bit of country too, and
Oh
classic,
God, see. I'm from the
class,
'90s. I love like freaking punk and like the Gen X, level of,
bad,
you know.
bad religion, Pearl Jam, Nirvana,
Yep,
Offspring.
I had Offspring. Yep, I had all those CDs, and
Yeah, I
but
like
like
all that
now
too.
now my tastes are more like freaking soccer mom rock. Like I love Styx and Def Leppard and Scorpions, and we saw Ozzy Black Sabbath when they toured. That was a good show.
Yeah, Black Sabbath, Ozzy
Hmm.
Osbourne. I wouldn't mind seeing those guys live either. Realistically,
Oh,
I
it
mean,
was good.
realistically though, you gotta remember my parents are, a whole decade older than you, so my music taste does go back quite a bit. Like I love Blue Oyster Cult is just one of my favorite bands ever. I could listen to them damn near all day.
I know it's weird. The older you get, you want to like revert to what you grew up listening. And my mom was pretty young at heart, and I grew up listening to like Bowie and Elton John and Queen, and that kind of music, and I really still love it. And
Oh, I still love
but
Queen.
but yeah, I like hip hop, R&B. I never really listened to Metallica much, other than like Enter Sandman and all that stuff. But um, I remember that being on the radio. Now though, I
Never,
love Metallica.
never a big hip hop guy. R&B and jazz, I don't mind.
Oh, I'd
Blues.
straight up listen to freaking like gangster rap over country music. Country music makes me want to die. It's so terrible sounding to me.
Oh, the gangster rap makes me want to fucking die. Some guy talking about niggas and hoes all day. I can take
Uh,
country songs talking about driving on back roads and life.
oh no, like it's weird how NWA and like some of the old Easy E stuff starting to come back, and like sipping on gin and juice and the old Snoop Dogg. It's like, oh yeah, here we go, '90s again.
Yeah, to be fair, in my regard, the rap I was first introduced to was when rap started its severe decline into basically just muttering the same word over and over and over again, trying to make it sound like it sounds like it rhymes.
Oh yeah, like I can't even the stuff that I hear on the radio now, like the freaking Justin Bieber bullshit. Oh my God, I just want to veer off to the road and kill myself, like just murder suicide. Like
murder, murder, suicide.
yeah,
I mean,
family of four, family of four killed on I-5 south of Seattle. That seems that the mother veered the car off and they took a header into a big Douglas fir tree. No survivors.
on the way to the tree, she manages to straw at a suicide note. I'd rather kill and myself and everyone that I am associated with rather than listen to this.
If I have to listen to this for another moment, it's over.
I mean, question from the chat though. How do you feel about Johnny Cash?
Yeah, no, I like really old country, like Patsy Cline and like even the Eagles. A lot of people don't know the Eagles started out in country, and I can even listen to like modern covers of Eagles songs by country artists, but just the poppy country that's like really popular right now. I seriously like,
Oh, you're not
and I
wrong.
live I live in a small kind of horse town, and it's like, oh my God, when we go into the local bars, I totally take over the fucking like music there. I'm like, we need to get some rock up in here. This is like, I'm dying. I can't listen to it.
All right, I can agree. I can agree entirely. Eagles, love them. Johnny Cash, love them. As for modern country, I don't mind myself a little bit of. Well, I guess Blake Shelton's been around for a while, but you can't really consider him new country. But I don't mind a little Blake Shelton. Billy Curran,
Gay,
Billy Currington. I like Billy Currington.
gay.
As for like rock, there's a numerous amount of relatively harder side of rock bands that I could announce that are relatively newer to me that I absolutely love. Well, not newer, but they've been around my life for a while. Like Papa Roach. Papa Roach was one of my first fucking bands that I bought an album from. That was Infest back in like I think late
Yeah. What
2000s.
about like what about like Dead Kennedys and stuff like that?
Oh, I got delved into punk by one of my by a buddy of mine. I've been an avid punk listener. The only punk the time that I drive away from punk is right when about Green Day started getting really popular. Because I like Dookie, but
Yeah,
like their
I
modern
got Green
shit,
Day.
but their modern shit just sounds absolutely garbage to me. Like I'm gonna piss and moan about how bad this country I'm living in is and how much money I'm making at the same fucking time because I'm a terrible millennial and I have nothing else to whine about.
Oh yeah. No, I know. I try to keep like the artists that I like. It's like I try to forgive them for some of their political leanings, like Green Day, and
It's
but
gotten
they
to a
still
point. It's
produce
got.
good music.
I can't separate Green Day from it though because they inject it in everything that they do. It's like it's one thing. It's like all right, you make a political song every now and then. Like Bad Religion, the Greg Graffin, which is the lead singer of Bad Religion. He's an outspoken communist sympathizer, which I disagree with entirely. But I like his music because I like the word structure, I like the thought processes, and I think actually if he had the time to sit down with me and explain to him how the things that he's speaking against in a capitalist society are the same that they can be spoken to in a communist society. But
Yeah.
that
I wish
notwithstanding,
like YouTube, they won't let you live stream music, will they? I know you now you can, but I don't know.
uh,
I don't think YouTube.
you can, but you'll get a strike against your channel for it, and it'll essentially keep you from streaming for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I used to you now live stream and like freaking karaoke out to a bunch of like Offspring and Green Day and stuff and Metallica, and you can't do that shit on YouTube, which sucks.
YouTube's a pain in the ass anyway. I
Yeah.
would say this. I would say this is going to get demonetized now, but let's be frank here. This was never monetized in the first place, so it doesn't matter. See, that's my grandmaster plan. If I never monetize my channel, I can never get demonetized.
There you go. Yeah, they're demonetizing stuff left and right. They demonetized my live stream the other day, but some of my other videos are still monetized, so I don't know. Their algorithm is all over the place.
I'm starting to think they have people saying like, "Oh, we have people looking into this." No, really, what they're doing is like, this person only has like 20,000 subscribers. We're not going to worry about that guy. Oh, this guy has like 20 million subscribers. We better look into this.
Shit, I think it's all fed through like just bots and computers now. My live stream, I think I had like one viewer and I think it got like 8 views and it was demonetized. And I only have, boy, I don't even know how many viewers I have on my channel. I think like 500 or something. I'm a really, really low level. But it's like instantaneous now. They know if there's any curse words. I think how you title stuff. I didn't even tag it with any keywords or nothing. They just demonetize that shit.
Well, yeah, for certain, it's a proven algorithm for certain words. Like we'll say for the sake of argument, like Islam was one of the hot keys a while back. If you type that in, it's like an instant demonetization, guaranteed.
They take it down, huh?
Yeah, they'll instantly demonetize it as soon as you upload it. But then again, you can also, you can what's sort of appeal to it. But I don't know how that'll work for you, depending on how big your channel is or how small your channel is or whatever. Talus
Yeah, that goes against.
Talus says in chat that he has to go back and re-like videos constantly. That doesn't surprise me
He has
considering
to re-like.
yes, considering when I first started my YouTube channel when I was like, I don't know, I'll say 30 subscriber count. Like I'd post a video and I'd drop 2 subscribers like instantly. Like I go from like I think I had like 21 at one point. I posted a video, went to 19, posted another video, went to 17. It was like, all right, I need to not post as much for a while.
Wow.
This was, I don't know, back when I first started my channel, so 5-6 months ago.
back in the day when I first started uploading. Oh man, they've changed so much.
Oh yeah, actually they have.
2009.
Well, to be
I think my first upload, my son wasn't even in school, and now he's in middle school. I mean, God, I'm an old granny compared to you. Shit.
only granny by modern circumstances. Most people are still, older mothers by your time on average.
Hey, the media keeps telling me that the 40 is the new 20. Come on now, you're killing me here.
Hey, you can be whatever age you want to be. It's called trans age.
I know, where it's like they give men fucking goddamn breasts and shit. Where's I want my facelift and boob lift. Come on now. I'm a 20-year-old trapped in a 42-year-old body.
You just gotta feel the right people. Talos in the chat says he had to resub to he said Worski, but I'm gonna finish. He had to resub to Andy Worski once before, which I had to personally myself too, and he's a much larger channel than I am. Boasting I think somewhere in the realm of like 220,000 subs or so.
Wow. How many subscribers do you have?
I think I just broke 80.
Wow, well, that's good. Keep at it. Yeah, and you don't really promote your channel either, I don't think.
Outside of Twitter and the people that I know in my social circle, no, I don't.
Yeah, it'll grow. Mine grew. Like I said, I think I have 500 or something like that. I could be wrong. I might only have 150.
500 and about 530, if I remember correctly, from what I saw when I grabbed the link from your channel.
Yeah, last time I checked, I think I had like 150 or 160,000 views. So, I mean, that's still pretty low level, but I'm proud of it just by freaking throwing up videos of my kids playing on. I built them an indoor jungle gym, and like that was a couple of videos that got over 10,000 views. And I'm trying to think, my rabbit barn. I used to raise rabbits before I was a vegan, and those videos have like 30 plus, 50,000 plus views on some of those.
There's actually I don't link for it open available right now to me. I don't think I saved it in my folder. Hold on, let me check. Nope, I don't have it. There's a guy in Germany who's raising rabbits to end homeless hunger.
Oh, was that I saw an article on Twitter about will raising rabbits end hunger in Venezuela or something like that, and I said no, it won't.
Nope. It was Germany related. It was just he was raising Netherland dwarfs, which can actually which can get pretty big apparently if you feed them enough. But the reality of the situation is the only thing that's going to save Venezuela is not being a socialist country anymore, not allowing the government to have the power to shut down anybody who disagrees with them.
Yeah, I think they're the ones destroying themselves, not saving themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna look at their fucking leader. Anybody speaks even remotely about them, it's like, nah, I'm gonna cut that down.
Yeah, but the whole rabbit thing, like rabbits get touted as like, oh, they can eat, weeds and stuff, and they produce meat and litters, and they're one of the cheapest livestock, like feed per pound. But any meat breeder rabbit, it's like, New Zealand's, those are the most common. Those are by like modern standards where we feed them so much grain, and you have to go buy it from a feed store. People aren't feeding them dandelion greens in their backyard, producing copious amounts of rabbit meat, and you have the cages, and they require care at least once a day, and I don't know. I just think that's crazy. People need to, why grow all these crops to feed rabbits? Just grow the crops and eat the crops. You don't need to put an animal in a cage. And it's a lot of work. I used to frickin' butcher 40 rabbits at a time, and it's so much work, and it's terrible work, just to produce a product that, you don't even need.
The reality of the situation is if you're dealing with a life-to-life basis, rabbits are actually not that bad of a food source.
No, they're not, like if you look at it from a meat consumption point of view. I mean, I remember, I wasn't born a vegan or anything, so I know like the nutritional benefits and everything. But looking back now, I've been a vegan now almost 4 years, and it's like I eat such better high quality food that's a fraction of the cost of anything I used to eat. And I'm thriving and I have like excellent health. And I was in fairly decent health anyways, even eating the stuff that I used to eat. And it's like it, but I mean, I don't know, a third world country, they probably don't have access even to all the fresh fruits and vegetables and grains that we do here.
You can't survive solely off of fruits and vegetables and grains, though. The human body won't allow it.
Well, I should have died a long time ago then.
Theoretically, yes, you should have. You're not getting the proper protein enzymes.
You
Nor are you
don't
getting B12.
you don't think so? You know, have you seen all those vegan medical doctors that have been plant-based for like 20 and 30 years that are like 90 now and they freaking bike 20 miles a day and I mean
Exception.
they can still
Have you
wipe their own ass.
have you seen that? Have you seen that 112-year-old man that eats rotten meat out of a food jar and got rid of cancer from it?
Well, there's how do they know if that's what really did it though?
Oh yeah. How do you know that's what really did it? So there's exceptions to the rule. The reality of the
Oh, well,
situation is
no, like
the
one
reality
of
of
the
the situation.
doctors.
The reality of the situation is the body is based solely off of an omnivore diet. That's the reason why that's the reason why I have canines. Vegans can exist in
Oh no. That's not
certain circumstances.
that's not true. There's so much anthropological data that's like to the contrary about
So then,
jaw
so then,
structure. But
so
I'm
then,
not speaking as this from like a dogma or indoctrination. I'm speaking totally from a scientific medical like I
so
said, I used to not be vegan. I remember. I worked in the
so then
medical
why?
field. I could counteract your points totally. Like
So why are there people that go vegan and lose their hair and die?
well, it's not, I mean, when you say like you go vegan, I mean, there's a broad range. It's just like now, well, so no omnivore dies or has nutritional deficits.
We
It depends on what they're eating. If they're like a fucking psychopath breatharian that's just water fasting all the time, then yeah.
we're
Or if
talking
they're only eating,
we're talking about people that are eating on a regular basis because they are vegetarians,
well,
vegans.
but you don't, yeah, but I mean, you'd have to quote me like an actual like study. I'm just saying like an individual, like the physicians that I referenced, they've actually done their own medical studies that led them down the path of becoming plant-based. They didn't just adopt it as a dogma because they thought it sounded better. I mean, they actually have the scientific data to prove that it's a beneficial diet, but it's a specific diet that we're talking about, one that meets your caloric needs, and it's not hard to do. I mean, if you're eating enough calories, you're going to be getting what you need.
You do
But you know,
realize
people do. Oh, go ahead.
you do realize that most vegetables are catabolic, right?
I mean,
I
they're calorie deficient, but they're
I
highly.
you burn more calories. You literally burn more calories getting the enzymes and whatnot that you need out of them that are actually produced inside of your body. So let's say
Yeah, I would agree, but
we'll say for the sake of
nobody
example
eats
me.
only Nobody eats only carrots or kale, though, is my point. And anyone that does that, yeah, they're a fool. But it'd be just 300 calories a day of a ribeye steak. It'd be the same fucking thing. It's not that it's the food, it's the amount of calories. I mean, we are meant to eat varied food sources. I get that. And we need the calories. I would say, if anything, we're probably meant to be starchivores, like humankind, even from the beginning, when you look and the amount of fiber that's required for healthy gut flora in the human species, you don't get any of that from eating meat or eggs or milk. You absolutely need fiber, but you also need the calories. So I agree. It's like we are meant to eat a varied diet, but plants can definitely meet that need. I couldn't forage my caloric needs in a day off of dandelion greens. I would slowly starve to death. But in America, the vast majority of people are not vegan, and there's so many health problems, and it's nutritional based. It's
There's
not.
there, there's a lot of
It's
health problems based upon the fact that we have lived a sedentary lifestyle and we do not do the same amount of work that we normally would do. For
that
example,
that is an
my cholesterol
aspect of it.
my cholesterol is extremely low regardless of my diet. Statistically, growing up consisted of when I would eat breakfast, it was usually eggs and a bread. And then my dinner, because I only eat 2 meals a day, my dinner was usually a form of meat, a starch, and a vegetable. It is a sound dietary example that had produced sound farmers for an extended period of time. The reason why a vegan diet doesn't work is because if you were to apply a vegan diet to a situation where you were dealing with somebody that was living in a developed country, or a part of the country that lives in a harsh climate, ergo Alaska, the vegan diet would not work.
Right, and
it just simply wouldn't allow for
but
it.
that's where I talk about how anthropological data points to, yeah, we are an invasive species. We've been able to, we can live on any climate because we can meet certain caloric needs. It doesn't mean that it's healthy though. But yeah, if you look at us as an animal species on the planet, we probably are meant to be a subtropical primate. We're not. We couldn't walk around naked in Alaska nor meet our caloric needs. I totally get that.
Well, I disagree with that in the sense that the Coscoloids, or white people as they're usually racistly called, Coscoloid mountains. We are pale-skinned, short-haired humans. We developed that way. That is nature. That is evolution.
Yeah, people can evolve. I'm not saying we can't adapt. That's one of the things that our bodies do have the ability to. And I'm not even saying that a person can't thrive off of eating meat. I mean, I used to eat a ribeye steak every day, and I had normal cholesterol, normal blood pressure. But I know when I switched, even though I had a really good cholesterol and my blood pressure was like 120/80, which is a healthy blood pressure, my cholesterol dropped 30 points and my blood pressure is now 100/50 or 90/50. I mean, the efficiency level of my heart has gone way up, and it's because my body's not having to process tons of animal protein through my kidneys, and it's not affecting my hormones, which eventually over the course of my life would probably lead to hypertension and slowly elevated cholesterol. And I would ask, like, well, what is the lifespan of somebody like the population you quote? Were they living into their 90s and 100s eating nothing but meat and, animal organs? They probably weren't.
Well, considering it was back at the primitive era, they weren't living much longer than probably 20. But the reality of the situation is there are people that live in Alaska that eat meat on a regular basis that live just as long as a person that's vegan does.
Yeah, but when you look at longevity studies, you also have to take into account like standard of living and their ability to care for themselves and that sort of thing. And that's why I was pointing out, like, some of the doctors I'd referenced earlier, how they're able to actually be completely active as if they were still middle-aged, whereas, and I'm a nurse, I work in a hospital, I see people in my 50s, like patients in their 50s now, that literally cannot wipe their own ass or put a pair of pants on because they're so obese and they have congestive heart failure and diabetes, which are like nutritional disorders and problems that occurred because they have such a shitty diet, and they're not vegan, is what I'm saying. They're not eating.
Well, it's a shitty diet. You were assuming that anything outside of a vegan diet is a shitty diet. See, the problem
no,
with
but even just a processed diet.
Well, the problem with you assume that everybody that eats meat is a processed diet either. I get most of my meat from my parents. I used to live on a farm.
I live on a farm now, and I used to raise my own meat, so I know I can speak to that same experience. I'm not discounting that.
My cholesterol is extremely low. The fact of the matter is, most of the vegan argument comes down to a basis statistical data. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Statistical data. But you're not dealing with an individual basis. That's like saying that just because an individual dies of smoking cigarettes from lung cancer, it means that everybody that smokes cigarettes is going to die from lung cancer. No, obviously,
right.
It depends.
That's correlative. It's not necessarily proven. It's causative in every case. You're correct. I'm not discounting that. But there's enough correlation as a whole to say smoking is bad, but there are individuals that live, like, I read articles all the time of people that live into their 120s that drink brandy every day and smoke cigarettes, but they also go ahead.
A lot of the things that a lot of people that talk about dietary and other such things seem to forget is the human body is a chemical set. Chemicals change from person to person. What's good for the goose may not be good for the gander. So yes, while it may work for you, it probably won't work for another individual. It might actually lead to literal death for another individual.
Yeah, it could, but like when you look again, that's where you have to go back to like epidemiological studies of large populations instead of anecdotal ones. I would agree. Like, yeah, I'm most people in America still have a fairly long lifespan, but I'm talking more about, well, but what about all the diseases along the way and the amount of medical care and supportive care that's involved in getting them to live into their 80s and 90s versus other cultures. And I'm not even saying vegan because veganism is a relatively new. There never has really been 100% plant-based society or culture. Um,
Then you
although
can't make a
there have been. Oh, go ahead. Go
you
ahead.
can't make it. You can't make a study based upon a statistic that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that there actually are now, like there have been populations that have been relatively, I mean, I don't think they would use the term vegan, but that are mainly plant-based. Like you have, I think they're called pescatarians or um, there's like this religious order in California, and they've been pretty much, I think, since like the 1930s. So they've had a couple of generations where they virtually eat zero animal products, and they live into their 90s and 100s, which isn't much more than the average American, but they're completely active up until the day they die. That's what I'm talking about. Like you have to look at that aspect, not just the longevity of a number of an age on a paper. It's like these people don't end up in nursing homes. They don't have dementia. They don't have heart disease or diabetes, and they're not obese. They're fully active, and they have their mentation. Whereas the average American that might live to the age of 78, they've been in a nursing home the last 5 to 10 years of their life, and they're on 20 medications a day. That's the difference I'm talking about.
Well, of course, it also changes depending on the person as well. But
It can,
well,
yeah.
but we'll move on from that. As the chat seems to get relatively boring of the dietitian talk. Obviously, I could go on a diatribe, and I'm sure you could go on a diatribe all day about the difference between veganism and not veganism. So we'll move on to something a little more entertaining. Uh, are you aware of Vegan Gaines' actions? I'm not speaking about him as a vegan in general, but his actions more or less regarding other YouTubers in general.
Um,
Since we're
uh,
talking about vegans.
yeah, you'd like give me an example. I mean, I've watched several of his I know that he does like a worst of the fitness industry. Are you talking about that kind of stuff? How he goes after bodybuilders?
No, like how he talks to, we'll say for example, like Bearing and Roaming Millennial and
Yeah, yeah,
other
and
individuals when he
milk
talks.
jar. Yeah, yeah, I've watched a lot of his debates.
Yeah, he's next level cringe. Like, don't get me wrong. I have no issue with an individual being vegan or not, but like him when he gets into a debate, it's like, listen, calm down.
Yeah, he does get. You know who's some really good ones is like Joey Carbstrong or James Aspie. They're actual more like ARAs, like animal right activists, but they also know a lot of the science but they're way more compassionate. Like they don't force it down. And I hope I'm not coming across that way either. I mean, I don't force my beliefs on anyone, but I know the medical data. I know that it is a sound uh lifestyle
which
and diet. But I do think I know what
which
you're
we
talking
could
about.
which we could
Like,
argue, which I'm sure we could argue about all day. But the reality of the situation is, it boils down to you're not shoving it down my throat, which I respect. That's my biggest thing about it. As long as it's like, all right, you have your beliefs and I have mine, and you're not going to push it down my throat. I'm okay with it.
yeah, and I mean, I had tons of people contacting me like about my rabbitry videos, for instance, years before I became a vegan, and it just turned me off. But it's one of those things like once you know it like clicks in your head and it makes sense. But I can agree, yeah, Vegan Gains, he definitely, not always, he does have good information, but yeah, he can definitely be somebody that can turn a lot of people away from veganism. But if you read his comment section, he's actually, so many people have gone vegan because of him. So whatever he's doing probably is working in the long run. Um, but yeah, it's the
At the end
delivery.
of it,
It's the
at the end of
delivery.
it, as I say, in my opinion, if he really wants to convert more people to veganism, he needs to be a lot less militant about it.
Yeah, I could agree that aspect, but it resonates with some people, and there are so many different types of like activism and outreach in the vegan community, and they're not all going to appeal to everyone equally. So he definitely gets that like kind of dweeb bodybuilder young male demographic, and he's actually converted a lot of people. So he could either be quiet and silent and convert nobody, or he can keep doing what he's doing and actually make people think about their food choices. And a lot of people have actually changed their lifestyle because of it. So
Yeah, more power to him. And in reality, at the end of the day, like, I don't give a shit if you're vegan. I don't give a shit if you're vegetarian. I don't care if you're just particularly a carnivore. If you do with your life what you do, I just don't want to pay for it.
yeah, I mean, we have that since we are, pretty much the top species on the planet. People can, make what choices they want. But I think that like if people really saw as a whole where their food comes from, especially like how animals are treated, and if they knew there was an alternative, it might change some people. I'm not saying it would change everybody, but I think that
No,
it's not wrong. It's not wrong for people to talk about it and debate it and kind of point out, you know.
it would
I
it
think
would change it would change some, but you have other people on the other side of the spectrum, like myself. Like I don't I do think what they're doing is wrong, but B, I don't get my meat from that place, so it doesn't that judgment doesn't affect me.
yeah,
That moral compass doesn't affect me.
yeah, I'm more of a realist and a traditionalist. Like my hope, like I know everyone's not going to go vegan, but like if my utopian kind of unicorn rainbow vision would be if people did go back to just raising their own animals, they would eat a lot less meat and the animals would have better lives versus what's happening now. But of course, that's never going to happen. We don't have that lifestyle around the world anymore. Um,
No, we don't. One
I'm
of
not
the
I'm not a hypocrite. I used to kill tons of animals with my own bare hands. I've probably freaking killed more animals than you have. I mean, yeah, I know all about the whole process. I've done it myself, and killing rabbits is a very personal experience because you have to handle them and chop their head off with your own fucking hands, and you basically are, decapitating them. And
personally,
yeah,
personally, I prefer breaking their necks. But we have a couple
well,
questions from
that's what you do
couple
before
questions
you.
from couple questions from the chat. One of them being Talus. He asks, "What about vegan gains in his dumpster diving?"
Oh, I remember that was pretty cringe. Like, I think the exercise was like the concept of it was okay, but yeah, like they were reading the expiratory dates on some of that shit like way wrong. And it's like, dude, if you're homeless, fucking dumpster diver away. But why would you like promote that to people? It was pretty hilarious. He took a lot of shit on that video. If you read the comments, I mean, it was brutal. I'm surprised he
Well,
didn't take the video down.
the reality of the situation is that a lot of stores and retailers have to get rid of the majority of their food because it has an expiration date and dictated upon them by the government. So
Yeah, and
you could, yeah,
it's not refrigerated properly, and they're pulling crap out going, oh yeah, this is still good, this is still good, this is still good. And it's like, why do you want to like get botulism? Like, are you trying to kill yourself? What the fuck?
only if it's in a can. It's all right. The can's swollen. Don't eat it.
Oh no, but that video that he's talking about, you obviously didn't see it. They were pulling out bags of bread and cartons of different kinds of plant milks and perishable
It has
items. And
all right, perishables. All right, there you go. Now you're hitting the botulism side. I was talking about the bread side of it. Somi Flynn asks, wasn't Vegan Gains the mental that pointed a gun at the screen and said, was, and, oh, excuse me, wasn't the mental that pointed a gun at the screen and was like, I bet it's okay if I murder you? Yeah, he was the guy that did that.
yeah, I think he does that in practically every video. And like, he's really famous for, there was a video where he said, when he sees a baby in a stroller and the baby starts crying, and all I can think of is taking my foot and stomping that little fucker till it bleeds to death and it's a pile of blood on the ground. I mean, he just went like fucking crazy. And like, so yeah, and he likes to say he's a sociopath and that he hates people, but he loves animals. And he has this like weird persona that he puts on for the camera. But I've seen so many other videos of him. I think he really is actually a more gentle, caring person. But I think
So
that's just
just
his marketing aspect, is he
uh,
appeals to the more brutal nature of bodybuilders.
okay, well, not necessarily bodybuilders, but I'm assuming militant vegans as well.
Well, that's his
Uh,
main demographic. That's how his channel took off, was his worst of the fitness industry.
so he's saying over here, or Viral Bunny is saying over here, they are going to be selling out of date food in some stores for 10 pence, 7 cents, to counter dumpster diving issues.
That who's going to be doing that?
I'm assuming the government of UK or shops in the UK, either or.
Yeah, I guess, but we're still luckily a capitalist society, so people don't have to buy that unless they want to like get fucking gastritis. Go right ahead.
You do know that botulism can only grow inside of an enclosed area lacking of oxygen, right?
Yeah, it's anaerobic. Exactly.
So it has to grow inside of usually a can that's been punctured in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and you can get it too, I think, from eggs, because eggs inside of the shell. You can get it from like potato, like if you bake a potato and then leave it out for several days, inside of the potato potentially could grow. I mean, it has to have darkness and lack of oxygen.
Hmm.
But luckily, botulism is fairly rare, but when it occurs, it's deadly.
Oh yeah, it's a nasty virus. Well, excuse me, not virus. It's actually a bacterium. But all right, hold on. We have a big market in Cork that has a huge open meat section, and when I show Americans pictures, they freak. That's from Ireland. I love Ireland.
Yeah, well, America used to have open meat markets, and there still are meat shops. In the town I live in, there's a meat shop that's got, flies swarming around it and shit. And, I don't know. People, I don't know. I know you don't probably really want to talk about it too much, but I just think it's a lot of conditioning for people, even myself, to like look at a gut pile or a bloody steak and go, that's good, or see a cow in a field and go, ooh, burger on the hoof. But you look at it
No,
like, yeah, I mean, my
to me,
husband
it's
says that
natural.
kind of stuff, and but I don't know. I've always loved animals anyways, so for me it was a fairly easy choice when I finally, like I said, it's like, you know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know, and then till one day when you finally do, and then it's like the light bulb goes off. And for me, it was actually a diet choice in the beginning. It wasn't like an ethical choice at all, because like I said, I used to fucking kill. I was like a sociopath on butchering day. I mean, I was a fucking murderer. I used to go out and just slaughter my whole fucking barn. So, and yeah, a lot of
What
people
are you
can't
talking
do
about? I
that.
still do it.
Yeah, a lot of people still do, but it's like it takes conditioning to get to that point. It's not like a natural behavior. And I think even the most rational person still deep down kind of feels a little crummy about having to do it. Um,
Nope.
but it gets easier over time. I saw that in my own self. It got to where it was fairly easy, but I did recognize, like, wow, I've been able to turn myself into a fucking killer, and not even give a shit anymore. And I could easily revert back to it as well. I know I could, especially in a survival situation. But I
The
recognize,
difference, the difference is the level of consciousness,
in terms of,
cognitive ability, development,
no, I know.
evolution.
Yeah, well, women have to survive on their own just as much as a man does.
Well, you have a dog, don't you?
Yeah, I have several.
Do you realize if it wasn't for man's love of meat, you'd never have a dog?
I don't know that dogs 100%, like in terms of like going back to the beginning, were used for hunting. Um, but
They
yeah,
weren't. They
like,
weren't. They weren't used for hunting. They were attracted to modern man because of the leftovers from his kills. They were
yeah,
wolves that
but
we domesticate because of our cable scraps.
yeah, and because of
That's
that,
called
through
evolution.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, now dogs can actually process and eat vegetable and starches. Like as evidenced by my dogs. My dogs are fed a plant-based diet, and I actually have an older dog that lost a health condition because of eating this diet. So, and I've raised 2 labs that are outstanding specimens that even my vet can't believe how healthy they are, and they are eating a plant-based diet. They do not get meat. And that, now, could I do that with a wolf? Probably not. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because they were eating, it wasn't because they were eating meat scraps next to a man, it was because they were eating starch and vegetable and fruit matter that modern dogs can now do that.
Well, actually, no. The original case, the reason why wolves were attracted to us in general was because of meat scraps. Wolves never ate vegetables or fruits.
No, they do today.
No,
They,
wolves are not dogs.
well, they're not.
They're
Dogs.
They're part of the
Yeah,
canine breed. Am I right?
yeah, dogs
But dogs are
are
domesticated.
genetically from wolves. Yes, exactly. But no, even wolves today, there's like evidence of dogs right now, or wolves, I mean, and even coyotes. I find coyote scat all the time. Like I said, I live out in the country. That's nothing but apple. And wolves eat berries. They're similar to bears. They'll eat whatever they can fucking eat, like, and get their hands on.
Well, yeah, it's a matter of survival for them. But at the end of the day, they still want the meat because it
And,
bears the most amount of calories.
And I won't discount that, because my dogs will catch animals and eat them. But I don't feed them that. They can catch it on their own, and they have. I'm not discounting that. And like I said, if I was starving, I'd fucking eat a rabbit in a heartbeat. I'm not going to lie.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
But
I'm not going to argue with you.
But I'd eat a human as well. So I'm not a fucking hypocrite. You know, if it came out of that shit, you better believe it. You know, no animal wants to die. You want to survive. Go on. And humans definitely are a scavenger. Right. I think that's why we dogs so well. I mean, you know, and wolves and coyotes are scavengers, and so are human primates. We will eat whatever we can get because we have such a high caloric need compared to other animals. So if you haven't eaten for days and you find a fucking day, eat it. Trust me, you are.
Damn right. I'm probably gonna end this about 15 minutes or so, but I get a. Hold on a second. Sneeze.
You know it's been fun and entertaining. I told you this whole stream of consciousness would probably be pretty cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I plan on ending this about 15 minutes. How do you feel about the concept of? I'm going to say this: just humans are the apex predator. We are at the top.
That we are an.
We are an apex predator.
I don't. Yes. Well, in a technical sense, yeah, and we happen to be, but I don't think in our natural state. Like if I just dropped you out of a plane somewhere, you would be the very bottom. It's only because of the support of our civilization and technology throughout the millennia. Like we can pass on knowledge from generation to generation, but no, I would not agree. Like in the most purest sense, we're absolutely not an apex predator. We have no.
But how do you mean though? Even if I were dropped into, we'll say for the sake of argument, the middle of the Amazon, when most of
Alaska. No, let's use your example.
Alaska. We'll say for the sake of argument, Alaska. I have basic understanding of survival instincts.
But that's because of your intellect. That's not because of your ability as a human. Like you have no physical adaptation for survival on your own.
But it is based upon previous discussions amongst humans, as you discussed before. The ability to pass on knowledge. This is what makes us an apex predator.
Yeah,
we know what is dangerous. We know what is stronger than us. We know how to retaliate against it. Therefore, we are an apex predator.
Well, it is like, yeah, we can colonize the moon, but that's because of technology. That's not because we have adaptation or mental. That separates us from animals and have superior in that aspect. But animals have so many superior, just natural abilities that we can't even compete with, and we would die out. We would die out as a species. We wouldn't be 11 billion people or whatever, 7 billion people on the planet right now. It's only because of our technology and our
Well, only because our
store
technology
data,
allows us to live the life that we do. G Money in the Bank says in the chat, polar bears. Polar bears are one of the very few species on the planet who actually actively hunt human beings. They're incredibly dangerous and will eat you literally alive. That is the reason why most Alaskans carry a extra metal door on the outside of the regular door to keep the polar bears out.
Yeah, and 50 calibers, because even a regular gun ain't good enough. Yeah, you have to have a 50 cal. I mean, even here in the West, like, yeah, a 357 is my round of choice, but that ain't gonna cut it against a fucking brown bear. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and a polar bear wears a whole lot more, has a lot more punch.
Yeah, and you probably need multiple rounds. And I would never put myself in a situation like, I love animals, but I'm not one of those mystical like weirdos. Like, I would never try to approach a bear. I used to scuba dive. I totally get it. Like, a shark is gonna fucking take a chomp out of me. Why would I even put myself or be around a shark to do that? Some things are just plain idiotic.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I say we're the apex predator. It does not necessarily mean in every circumstance. Obviously, our intellect, our cleverness, and our ingenuity allows us to rise to the food chain as we have. So
yeah, well, let's just, for the sake of argument, why don't you just transport yourself over to where I'm at right now, and let's just get out in the yard and see if we're still alive in the morning. We wouldn't be. Even with our coat and shoes on, we'd fucking freeze our ass off. It would take so much preparation just to do an excursion for an overnighter in certain climates. Yeah, we're not an apex anything other than our adaptations through our intellect.
You guys live in a Douglas fir forest. I'm sure I could find a shit ton of beetle kill pine trees to cut down with an axe and turn into firewood in no time.
Oh, but you need an axe.
Part of my intellect.
And it would,
I could grab a stick.
And it would
I could grab a stick, and I'm assuming some form of fiber from somewhere, usually a tree branch or some other thing, and use it to tie it to the use a broken rock to tie it to the end of a stick and use it as an axe. Will it be difficult? Yes. Will I maintain? Yes. Because it's survival.
Yeah,
and it's beetle kill, so it's hollow on the inside anyway. And it burns like toilet paper.
Yeah, we don't have bug kill pine here like they do in Canada. So there's not as much dead wood, but yeah, I catch your drift. I just, like I was saying, my live stream that I did the other day, if anyone wants to go watch it, my Merry Christmas live stream, I actually talked about that. I practiced fire starting skills a couple times. I pointed out a tree on my property that I've noted that we've been out here 10 years and that tree produces resin, and I've actually done fire starting skills. I usually, my daughter, we go out after it's rained a few days and we see what we can do. And yeah, you have to have that skill set and that knowledge and know how to look for dry tinder and maybe some resin, or they call it fat wood or heartwood. But every tree is, I have a 5-acre property and I only have one tree that does that, and that's because I've looked. But if the average person just come out here, it would take a lot of time. And you probably started, even if you spent all night trying any friction method whatsoever, it would take a while. That's where you need a tribe of people to take turns, because a person would wear out. The average person, even with upper body strength and skill, to get a fire going with any friction method. And I just know that because I practiced. And I also talked about how I reviewed several ferro rods and magnesium rods, and most of them actually produce sparks. And I just know that through experimentation, because I'm actually kind of a rare woman. Like, when I hinted at some of the prepping stuff and survival skills, I actually try them and I practice them several times a year. And it's amazing how difficult it actually is to do. I carry lighters everywhere because getting lighter for starting a fire.
All right, so that I do agree with you. However, if you're born into the heartwood of a tree that's already dead, usually you deal with a lot of very good. Well, essentially, it becomes like hay, essentially as a tinder. But that comes from my experience learning as a park
Probably a
ranger.
woodsman. Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely love the woods. I absolutely love the wilderness. Let's see. I have a few questions. This one comes from somebody Flynn in the chat. She asked, "How about raising children as vegan?"
Well, I don't
Or
raise my children as vegan. I don't push it upon anyone. I do understand that we're all kind of products of the society we live, and like my kids go to school, they're going to eat what they eat. But they definitely, because I now am vegan and plant-based, I can say my entire family eats way more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, whole foods than they ever have before. And so for that, I'm proud. And when they get older and they can decide for themselves, they can do what they want. But yeah, I'm not a vegan that like raises my children vegan, but I actually, my dogs, I feed them a plant-based diet as their main staple. And I've seen amazing results in my elderly dog that had chronic yeast and fungal infections. And we tried multiple different meat-based diets, and none of them worked. And my vet said he's probably allergic to this and that protein. They never suggested a plant-based diet, but I said, fuck it, I'm a vegan. I've seen these other people claim dogs can be vegan. I'm going to try it. And sure enough, within a frickin' month, my dog had no more health conditions related to infected ears, licking his paws, and he's been fine ever since. And then we got 2 other puppies, and I said, I'm not feeding them that garbage. I'm feeding them this, very simple ingredients, whole plant food diet. And my labs they're over a year now, and they're absolutely stunning how beautiful and healthy they are. And I thought, just from a scientific viewpoint, I kind of believed like more like you, like, oh, dogs are meant to be carnivores, and you know, and I just thought, hey, I have a scientific background, I have a medical background, I'm not an idiot. I used to eat meat myself. As soon as my dogs show any problems, I'm going to switch them back. And they never did. They do well. And I just fed my
so
dogs rice today. My dogs eat Brussels sprouts. They fucking lap up raspberries off the ground. I mean, my dogs will eat anything that's a plant, a fresh fruit, a vegetable. They love it.
so long as what you're saying is they also go out and hunt their own meat as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I
As
don't want
long
it.
as long
A dog cannot be a vegan, okay? A vegan is like it's like a dogmatic approach to how you view animals and the consumption of other living beings. But I would say that their foundational diet is a plant-based diet. But yeah, I've seen them catch rats. I saw a frickin' rabbit fur all over my backyard the other day. They'll eat anything. I mean, they're hunters.
all right, fair enough. I can argue with you on that. You make a very valid case. Um, that about does it for the questions in the chat. So I guess in closing, as it were, unless any clear indications of conversation come up, nope, nothing yet. So I'm gonna just assume this went pretty goddamn well. It's pretty fun. It
Oh
was pretty
yeah,
entertaining, and
it was. Free speech rules, awesome sex rules, veganism rules, adult beverage rules. That's kind of my takeaway.
everything's at the veganism side of it. But that's just me.
You're
All
you're
right.
smart. You're smart enough. I think if you looked into it a bit more, you would see that it's not a terrible thing. I'm not saying you'd convert,
I'm
but
not.
you'd be a
Oh, I'm
little
not
more
saying.
neutral on it.
I'm not. I am neutral, and I don't give a shit if you're vegan or not. It's your fucking business. You do with your diet what you want to do with your diet. I'm gonna do with my diet what I do with what I want to do with my fucking diet. I don't give a shit.
I agree. Proceed.
Anyway, it has been a wonderful stream. Go check out Newly Awakened's channel. Links will be later, probably tomorrow, considering it's damn near my bedtime as it is. This lasted a lot longer than I thought it would have. To everybody in the chat, you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and night, you glorious fucking cunts. And I will see you assholes later.
Everybody, bye.